Hey, Rick, you do the invocation, please. Okay. You want to wait till... Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the August meeting of the Tennessee Real Estate Commission. We're glad you're here. If you have to be here for a particular reason and didn't sign in, there's a sign-in sheet in the back. If you're here for some other particular reason where you don't need to sign in, that's fine with us as well. All right, at this point, I'll ask Caitlin Maxwell, our Executive Director, to read a public disclaimer into the record and then call the roll, please, for the record.
Notice of the August 8, 2018 meeting of the Real Estate Commission, including date, time, and location, have been noticed on the Tennessee Real Estate website since November 1st, 2017. Additionally, this month's agenda has been posted on the website since Friday, August 3rd, 2018. For the roll, Commissioner Gary Bloom.
Here.
Commissioner Rick Douglas. Commissioner Marcia Franks.
Here.
Commissioner Diane Hills.
Here.
Commissioner Johnny Horn. Commissioner Austin McMullen.
Here.
Commissioner Fontaine Taylor. Commissioner Bobby Wood.
Here.
Chairman John Grease.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. At this point, if you all will listen to Commissioner Douglas, he'll lead us in an invocation followed by the pledge to the flag. Mr. Douglas.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for the opportunity, Lord, to serve you, to serve our state. Lord, we pray that you will give us the wisdom and discernment that we need to do so. And Lord, at the end of the day, give us safe travel back home. And we pray this in Christ's name. Amen.
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner. At this point, it's time to approve and/or modify today's agenda. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
I
Second.
have a motion by Mr. McMullen, seconded by Ms. Franks, that the agenda be approved. Mr. Woods.
Yes, on the agenda where it has business cards, I would like to just hold off on talking about that a little further. I'm still feel very strong about it, but I'd just like to do a little more research before we move forward on it.
Any objection? We'll take that off the agenda. I note also on the agenda that we had vote scheduled for chairman and vice chairman. It's the chair's preference that we wait till we have a full commission so everybody gets to participate in that, if that's okay. So is there objection to postponing that till next month? Okay, let's do that.
We hadn't already done that.
Nope, not yet.
No, we did it in that room.
No. I've done it a year ago. We have to do it every year.
Okay.
Time moves.
Time flies.
Yeah, time moves fly.
Sorry.
All right, any other additions or deletions to today's agenda? Well, you've got Aurello under your report, is that right? Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, great. All right, let's vote to approve the agenda as modified. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion passes unanimously, and the agenda is approved. Next up is to approve the minutes of last month's meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
A motion,
Second.
Motion by Ms. Hill, seconded by Mr. Bloom, that the minutes as submitted be approved. Now, the corrections or deletions, additions?
I wanted to ask, I wasn't here for the Wednesday meeting, but I was here for the Thursday meeting, and I didn't see that was in the minutes. And the other thing, too, that I didn't notice when I was looking for that was, do we usually not put the decisions that we make in those hearings in our minutes?
Decisions on the legal report?
No, on the formal hearing.
So we did put the notice at the end.
I didn't see that.
It should be the very last page is where the notice of formal hearing was added.
Okay.
We can add the decision.
I think Ms. Franks' point is good. I mean, if we had a formal hearing, the minutes ought to reflect what the decision was. If you'll get that handled. Let me add, just to follow up on that, on the disciplinary report that's published, does the result of that hearing hit that as well?
So because it was dismissed, that would not be reflected on the disciplinary report because there was no discipline.
But if it had,
If it had, yes.
it shows up. Okay,
Yes.
that's what I need to know. All right, with that comment, any other comments or additions, deletions? If not, let's vote. Those in favor of approving last month's minutes as amended by Ms. Franks, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
And I will abstain.
You don't have to.
Huh?
You don't have to.
I will abstain.
All right, we have one abstention. So we have 6 ayes, 1 abstention. The motion passes. All right. Any other preliminary business to come before us before we get started? If not, we'll get to our informal appearances. Is Ms. Kessler here? Vanessa Kessler? Are you here? Okay, what? Okay, perfect. Kelsey Marsh, are you here? All right. Let's, and you have a broker with you as well. So this is how it works. Our executive director is going to read us a short comment about what caused you to be here today. Then we're going to ask you and your broker, in each case, to come up. Our law director will swear you in, Ms. Matlock, at which point you will have the opportunity to give us a lot more detail, or as much detail as you want to, about the events that happened that caused you to be here and what you've been doing since that event. Then the commission will have the right to ask you questions. We'll turn to your broker and ask why your broker is interested in sponsoring you as an affiliate. The commission has the right to ask the broker questions, and eventually we'll get around to a vote to either allow you to proceed for your license or wish you the best of luck in some other enterprise. Okay, so let's start then with Kelsey Marsh. Caitlin, if you'll give us a little background. And while she's doing that, if you and the broker will come up, we'll get started.
Before you have applicant Kelsey Marsh and her principal broker, Aaron Taylor. Ms. Marsh has taken and passed the Tennessee Affiliate Brokers exam. Her principal broker, Aaron Taylor, was first licensed as a broker on 1/22/2010 and is currently the principal broker of Greater Johnson City Realty, doing business as Keller Williams Johnson City. There have been no disciplinary sanctions. A summary of the disciplinary sanction is theft of property under $500. Ms. Marsh has completed all terms set by the court, and her statement can be found on your iPad.
All right, thank you, Ms. Maxwell. Ms. Matlock, if you two will stand just for a second, she'll swear you in and we'll get started. I assume she asked you, since I couldn't hear her, I assume she asked you if you're going to tell the truth. Is that? Just want to make sure I understand what Ms. Matlock asked you. All right, Ms. Marsh, what caused you to get here? And you'll have to talk into the microphone closely, please.
Guess I hit that. Do I have to hold it? Okay. Well, I was pretty young, pretty dumb, and going through a rough time with my parents' divorce, and decided I was going to try to get in with some girls that I probably shouldn't, and they had, the day before I was caught and got in trouble, they had gone into a store in the mall and taken a lot of clothes, and they decided that I should probably do it the next day or help them do it the next day. So I tried to go in and take some clothes with them, and that was very stupid. So
How long ago was that?
almost 7 years. I was officially convicted in February 2012.
What were you convicted of? Theft under $500? Is that what I heard?
Yes,
Okay.
it was.
Since 2012, what have you been doing?
Staying out of trouble.
That's a good start.
Yes.
You have a job?
I've had a lot of serving jobs, not my cup of tea.
What else you want this commission to know before they start asking you questions? All right, commissioners, any questions for Miss Marsh?
How old were you, Miss Marsh, when that happened?
I had just turned 18.
Okay. So,
She's still pretty young.
yeah.
Okay, just checking.
I feel a lot older than I am.
Mr. Bloom?
So serving jobs, that's in the restaurant?
Yes, sir.
You're a waitress?
Yes.
More than one? More than one job?
Yes, it was. 5 or 6 different ones, probably, through the years.
What attracts you to the real estate business?
Well, I like to help people, and just the whole going through buying my own house kind of really led me into wanting to pursue this career. I had seen it before. My mom had been a realtor before, and it seems like a really good, stable career that I could get into.
So you own your own house?
I do.
Married? Okay. I was wondering how you could own your own house with 5 different serving jobs.
Yes.
Some do.
I mean, you can make good money in it, but
You have to declare it, though.
yeah.
How do you know all about this, Gary? All right. Ms. Franks?
What type of real estate do you think you'll be practicing? Will it be commercial? Will it be residential? What's your plan?
I plan on doing just residential. I mean, I don't. Commercial would be too much for me right now, so I just plan on doing residential.
And so, have you spoken with your principal broker about what kind of training that you'll be getting?
Yes, and I've been doing some training through Keller Williams, some of the classes that they offer already.
All right, other questions for Ms. Marsh?
I would just say, I hope you understand why, I mean, where there's concern, if anything, because with being a real estate agent, I mean, you're going to have access to people's houses.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's the concern. I mean, that, you know, and not always, they don't always have cameras and stuff. But although I am finding now there's a lot more that got cameras than we realize. So that's that. And the commission has even had that come before us at one point, where people had cameras when people were in it. So you know, just be cautious of that.
Yes, I understand.
All right, Mr. Taylor, would you tell us why you're interested in having Ms. Marsh affiliate with your firm?
Morning, Commissioners, Chairman. So there is another individual owner with me, with Keller Williams, Frank Marsh. That is her uncle. And so the name carries on, I guess. And I was asked to come down here. And to come before you all to vouch for her so that she could get her license.
Commissioners, Ms. Marsh.
Ms. Marsha. I also noticed that in the past, Ms. Maxwell, we have gotten signed affidavits from the principal brokers. Do we not do that anymore? It had as a questionnaire that they filled out about how they knew them, and
I don't believe since I've started that that's been part of the paperwork. We get a prior criminal conviction application, and we get any court documents or documents that relate to what we received on their TBI report. So
I just like to always look at those affidavits because I know the principal broker is the person who's going to be responsible ultimately. And it was a form. Do you all remember that form that we used to have all the time? Mm-hmm. And because sometimes people would put on there they didn't know the person, or they only knew them a day, or they're going to meet them today. And obviously they have a connection through her uncle. But would you check on that? Because I'd love for us to get that.
yes, yeah, I'll look for that.
Ms. Maxwell, is Ms. Marsh licensed yet?
Oh.
Okay. Ms. Marsh, do you understand that you're not licensed at this time? Okay. Do you have a LinkedIn page where you say that you're a licensed realtor right now? Or do you have a LinkedIn social media page?
I think I may have signed up for it, but I don't remember putting anything about being a licensed realtor on there.
Okay. Because I see a LinkedIn page, Kelsey Marsh, licensed realtor at Keller Williams Realty, Inc., Churchill, Tennessee, on LinkedIn.
I remember putting anything about being a licensed realtor on there, though.
Okay.
I remember looking at it, but I haven't been on it since I signed up for it that day.
Mr. Taylor, were you aware of that?
No, sir, I was not.
Okay. I do just want to emphasize the importance of advertising. There are a lot of rules about real estate licensees and how they can advertise. And, as the principal broker, obviously she's not your affiliate broker right now, but as principal broker, as you know, you are responsible for those advertisements, and truthfulness of advertisements is critically important. So I don't know how that got on there, but you're responsible for what you say or what is said about you. So I would encourage you to look into that and make sure that all that's accurate.
Other commissioners' comments? Mr. Wood?
I just had a question. Aaron, it says that your company is called Keller Williams Johnson City. Is that the name of it, or is it
Yes.
like what would I, if I see your sign? what does your
KW Johnson City. Keller Williams
Okay.
Johnson City. Yes,
so
sir.
you actually say Johnson City on it. Okay. Okay. I just, and what has just brought it to mind, I was out of town last week in a different state, and I saw Keller Williams offices that would say something else. But just the ones I see in Middle Tennessee, there's lots of Keller Williams, which lots of different owners, but they don't have anything after the Keller Williams. So, okay.
Okay, other questions for either Ms. Marsh or Mr. Taylor? If not, is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion, we approve her application to move forward.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, the motion is properly made by Mr. Bloom, seconded by Mr. Wood, that Ms. Marsh be allowed to continue in her process to secure an affiliate broker license. Further discussion? Let's vote. Those in favor of that motion vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion passes
One
unanimously.
abstention. Abstain.
Okay, and Ms. Hills will abstain. So you're free to keep on working towards your dream. You got to make sure that you don't put this guy in a bad spot. Seriously. I mean, okay.
And remember to get anything that you do, everything that has your name or realtor by it, we consider it advertising. The LinkedIn thing, I don't know how you could have gotten on there without you putting it on there. So it's very important. Every single thing you do that's advertising, before you do it, you've got to let him approve it. He not only gets to see it, he has to approve it. Okay?
It's a technicality, but because that advertisement's up on LinkedIn and you're not licensed, we can't do anything to him. But if you were an affiliate of his, then he would be in a possible situation of failure to supervise your actions, which is
Or you could be found to be doing unlicensed activity.
So with all those cautions and warnings,
Be careful.
have a great real estate life. Okay. Thanks for coming down today, and be careful headed home. All right, Vanessa Kessler. Ms. Maxwell.
Before you have applicant Vanessa Kessler and her principal broker Christy Drury. Ms. Kessler has taken and passed the Tennessee Affiliate Brokers exam. Her principal broker Christy Drury was first licensed as a broker on 6/8/2018 and first licensed as an affiliate on 10/31/2007, and is currently the principal broker of M&K Elite Properties LLC, doing business as Exit Realty Elite. There have been no disciplinary sanctions. The summary of the disciplinary sanction, conspiracy to possess cocaine with intent to deliver. Ms. Kessler has completed all terms set by the state. Ms. Kessler's statement can be found on the iPads.
Ms. Matlock is going to swear you two in, and she's going to say it loud enough that. Thank you, Ms. Matlock. That was excellent.
You're welcome.
All right, Ms. Kessler, at this point, you didn't hear the introduction, but you're free to give us the history of how it caused you to be here, what you've done since that event, what you're all about now, anything you'd like to let the commission know.
The event happened about 8 years ago.
You got to get real close to that microphone.
The event happened 8 years ago. I was dating this gentleman, Alex Morales. We'd been dating for about a month. A trip to Texas, to Houston, for one of his, a gentleman that he worked with that asked for a ride, to ride with us. And he told him yes, and he had a friend. When we got to Houston, we stayed at a Sheraton hotel. It was a rental car. They asked to use our rental car to go get their friends, drop them back off. They brought our car back. We didn't see them anymore during that trip. I had to be back in town by Monday because I had a 4-year-old daughter. We were set up. We knew nothing about the stuff being in the car. We were pulled over in Arkansas by a state trooper. They searched the car. They found the drugs underneath the car. It was just taped really hard underneath, and when we had no idea, we were interrogated about 8 to 10 hours. It was his first offense, and he was trying to take the whole blame because I was just a passenger, but they pinned me with it because I was there. But I got a 6-year suspended sentence, paid my restitution, was on no probation. Since then, I've gotten my cosmetology license. I've had another daughter. She's 4. And I can also get it expunged. I called Arkansas the other day. I just have to fill out the application, send 50, and then go to a court date, and I'll have it expunged off my record. So I've just been working to get past this and want to build a better future for myself and my family. And that's it. And I'm really nervous. I'm sorry.
Commissioners, Ms. Franks.
So where did they find the drugs?
It was in a rental car. It was an HHR, and it was like in the back tire, like somewhere above the back tire. I'm not sure because I didn't see them.
Like in the wheel well? And so it was taped up in there, and it was cocaine? So where was the paraphernalia?
The paraphernalia was a cigar, just a regular pack of cigar.
That's illegal in Arkansas to have cigars?
Paraphernalia, yeah.
What kind of real estate are you going to be doing? Are you going to be doing residential or commercial? Residential. And do you have any previous experience in real estate? Have you ever bought or sold a home yourself? Okay.
My mom has. I helped her.
Bloom.
Why did they stop your car?
I'm guessing out-of-state tax. It's I think it was through Van Buren, Crawford County, Arkansas, and I think they have like a lot of a big heroin problem, or it was like a good spot. They put me over. It was the craziest situation. I saw a trooper that had somebody else pulled over, and there was a trooper beside me, and he was doing this number where I could. And he pulled me over for not getting over for the other trooper.
So you were driving?
Yes, ma'am. It was my turn to drive. We were on our way home.
Closer to the mic.
So you rented the car in Arkansas?
No, we rented the car in Tennessee to drive.
And you drove it to Texas,
yes.
And you were the rental
yeah,
car
we were just
back.
supposed to be there for the weekend. It's my first offense. My lawyer tried to get me just like the smallest one, the 5-year sentence, suspended sentence, but they gave me. I did not have any probation. I just had to pay my restitution, and that's over with. My 6.
They suspended your driver's license. You have that checked on here. Or maybe you don't. That judicial
Suspended
district.
sentence, yeah. Since then, we've had no contact or anything. Matter of fact, when they were interrogating us, he was trying to contact the guy. The phone was already off. Like, it rang once, and then we tried again later. He even tried to work with them to, make a plan. Because he's like, well, I never knew how they were going to get it from the car. Like, they didn't even know when I was going to return to rent a car. So I don't even know if they had somebody in Nashville.
Where is Alex Morales now?
He is here. We're actually still together. He helped me through the whole ordeal, helped me get through everything. It was his first offense also. He had received a 10-year sentence, and he got out by doing a 5-month boot camp because it was his first offense. And he's actually on 20 years probation, so he cannot get into any trouble or anything. And he's doing flooring, and we have a 4-year-old daughter together.
So that was his first offense. I mean, to me, it sounds like a pretty good way, or a way, to transport drugs without the people doing it even knowing about it.
Right. I think it was just the craziest. I've never even heard that people did that. But I think after we explained and after they investigated, they understood, and that's why they just let us have to, And I really am working on getting it expunged. I called and they said I could get it expunged.
I'd make that a priority.
Yes, sir. I called, and I just have to fill out a form, send in a $50 money order, and then have a court date and show up for my court date, and that's it.
Great.
And I plan on definitely doing that.
All right, Mr. Uri, what do you know about this lady, and what attracts you to her?
Well, first of all, she was recommended by one of our top agents that has been practicing for. So she is known, by this person. And also, we have met several times, and I've required her to attend all training that we've had at the office in the interim, just to commitment to the process. We also just had several one-on-one discussions regarding agency and how she's going to be held to a higher standard because this is on her record, in order to, make sure that nothing is seen as improper. And when she's going to be on a 90-day probation, when she does, will be reviewed by myself.
Is your office in Nashville?
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay, just curious. Commissioners, questions for Mr. Uri?
Could you tell us a little bit about your training program that she will go through?
Yes, what we require of all of our new agents, we have a new agent boot camp that is a 6-week series, and we meet every month to review, for example, contracts, how to use the MLS system, advertising correctly, what's allowed, what's not allowed. So we step through a lot of that so that they have some of the experience that they need to be a good agent.
How many agents do you have at your company?
Right now we have 55.
Okay. That's
Mr. Bloom.
Yes. Can you tell me something about your career? Because you've been a broker for, 2 months?
Yes. What I can say is I had actually retired my license, and only because, I don't really drive that much, but I've been working the last 10 years in real estate, and for the last 3, I was actually the admin to the broker that was there. And she left, and the owner asked if I would take over since I was working so closely with her.
Why do you not drive?
I had an accident, so, I try not to go on the streets too much, but I'm usually there. I will, like my husband drove me here today, and my eyesight isn't really that good, so, just to protect,
Walking
any
wounded.
future clients.
Well, bless you. You're doing okay, though.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
I think none of that impairs your ability to oversee the work of
No,
new
because what I have put in place, because the person who has sponsored her into our office, I usually put new agents into a mentorship program so that not only they're working with them so that they can go, on appointments with them. And I've done that as well. I managed to go there and be at appointments, especially for a new agent when they're doing their first listing appointment. I find that it helps in terms of, making sure we're following agency correctly, terms of a contract maybe. But, yeah, I don't feel like it impairs my ability. I mean, I do drive. I just don't make it a habit where I'm driving, 50,000 miles a year.
You still list and sell property, or just?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I am just an oversight, and so I actually work, at least 40 hours a week doing that with all of our agents. We have a pretty large firm.
Okay, other questions for either the applicant or the broker? If not, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve this applicant.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, the motion's made by Ms. Frank, seconded by Mr. Wood, that Ms. Kessler be allowed to continue on to get her license. Are you ready to vote? Those in favor of the motion vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The passes unanimously. Mr. Rude, just one quick question. So you've got 55 agents that you've been talking to off and on for the last 3 years or more. Are there any particular issues that your agents are upset with these days in this business? Without being specific.
Well, I guess usually what I have a problem with, let's talk about it from a broker standpoint, is the level of experience they come into the office after going through some of this training. It seems a little lacking. Which is why I do the boot camp, because it's almost like starting over on that pre-licensing class. Okay, here's how you correctly fill out forms. Here's what's required when you meet with somebody. Here's what agency really stands for. They seem to be confused about the agency, what that means in terms of, their fiduciary responsibilities. So I make a strong effort to say, okay, if you're going to do one thing, become a contract specialist. Know what it is that you're supposed to be doing. And I don't feel like they come prepared for that. And they're usually extremely nervous for their first deal. That's what I hear from, like they feel unprepared sometimes when they come out, if they're new. Now, as far as, experienced agents, they sometimes want to make that transition into like doing commercial real estate too, and they don't feel like they've had the proper training or experience.
Are you saying the pre-license courses are more for passing the test and preparing an agent?
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
So.
Yeah.
I just got
I feel like I teach that pre-licensing course over again.
Mr. Wood, do you have any comment on that?
When I first got on the commission, 2 or 3 years ago, my first thought was, what we need is more pre-licensing. And then after I got in, I'm like, all the pre-licensing does is teach you to pass the test. And once you pass the test, you think you know real estate, but you know nothing. And, I keep saying, someday if I get to wave a magic wand, I've often wondered if it would be a good thing. The post-licensing course, when it was originally done, because now it's part of pre-license, but that was supposed to be a nuts and bolts. Here's how to write an offer. And here's what the form looks like. Let's read the form together. That's what it was supposed to be. And now it's kind of gotten diluted. And I've often wondered if it would be a good idea to maybe have a real post-licensing after you would get your license, and to say, okay, now within 3 months, everybody's got to have a contracts course. There are brokers like yourself, apparently, that are doing stuff like that. But the problem is not everybody does that. And I was talking yesterday. There is in a real estate transaction, it's a good thing for say me as an agent to know what the contract is, but also if I'm doing a deal with you, it's a good idea for you to know what it is too. It sure does make a great transaction. And I've equated it to the fact of, like, when I'm driving on the road, it's good for me to know what to do at a stop sign, but it's also really good for you to know what happens upside. So we have good thing. And so I've often wondered if we should start having a series of classes required, because not every broker's doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and I am shocked at the number of contracts that come through that are not bound.
Yeah.
That seems to be like number one. Yeah. So, yeah, and so the one thing I try to impress upon all the agents is every single real estate deal is different. So you have to take your compendium of all your knowledge, that you know about, in order to say, okay, here's where I need to go with that. And, when you're a new agent, you don't have all that at your resources, which for me, everybody has a direct line to my text. And I go, please ask me. I'd rather they ask me than just guess.
And then you have to try to fix it after it got messed up. So
yeah, then it's a mess.
Yeah.
I've seen places where we've dealt and they think, oh, let's clean up the contract and rewrite it. It's probably one of the worst things that anybody can do.
Mr. Bloom.
I entered this being concerned about you being a broker for 2 months. But I'm leaving not concerned at all about that.
Thank you very much.
And we've had people come before us who've had 2 months of experience 20 times, so.
Well, I'm a transplant from Michigan, and I was in real estate there as well. So I bring some experience.
Well, your conversation and Bobby's is very fruitful, I think, for all of us. And a new agent being nervous the first time is not a bad thing.
No, it's not.
I think it tells them I'm fixing to do something very important.
Well, and that's why I explain. In fact, I really like on the transaction desk how they have the Inform tool, because one of the things that I write down is say, okay, I want you to go to the Inform tool and read every single contract, so that you understand in language that you can explain to people what this all means.
You're the 1% that even knows the Inform tool is even there. When I've taught classes before, I would show that, and they go, "When did that get there?" Like, from the beginning.
I know. Well, I'd be glad to offer input when you put that class together.
Okay.
You've done that. We appreciate you taking the extra time to talk to us. I will say, to Mr. Bloom's point, that you're the first principal broker that's ever used the word compendium in front of us. Okay, that's pretty impressive. I'm not sure what it means, but it was nice of you to throw that word out there. All right, Ms. Kessler, we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Pay attention to this lady. She strikes us as a good role
Great.
model.
She's always there for us when we need her.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Be safe. All right. Next up, Education Director's report.
Well, thank
Mr.
you,
White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. As I get my iPad loaded here, I want to present to you the education agenda today, August 8, 2018. I've reviewed the courses A1 through A31, and I submit them for your approval this morning.
Motion to approve A1 through A38.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right. The motion is made by Mr. Woods, seconded by Ms. Franks. Now, does any commissioner wish to pull a particular course out?
Well,
Mr. Bloom.
How about is that 1092, the Knoxville Area Association of Realtors? I'm really particularly interested in Hocus Pocus, Your Focus.
What's the course number on that, Gary?
A6.
A6.
I'm sorry, A6.
Okay. So we're going to pull A6 out of the motion. Anything else? You want to take a second to look through those? All right. The motion on the floor is to approve courses A1 through A38 with the exception of course A6, which we will discuss.
The last course is A31.
31.
That's correct.
My fault. See, and it's not just you that I can't hear sometimes. A1 through A31, with the exception of A6. Let's vote. Those in favor of approving those courses, vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion passes unanimously.
I need to abstain from, now that I have this up, 5 through A28.
Mr. Chairman, I abstain from A2.
A2. All right, well, let the minutes reflect those abstentions, please. All right, Mr. Bloom, A6.
I think I just want to hear from Ross a little bit more about that. That's could be an interesting course, but it's very different.
Well, it's sort of a sensational way to approach it. I think the course itself is using a metaphor of magic to teach the attendees and our licensees, and it tries to, if you will, help the realtor stay focused on things that they need to actually overcome some issues in the way they do their business. And again, as it says in the narrative here, ultimately to establish the trust and the cornerstone of professionalism. The individual, Mr. Tran, is a media person. He's a personality. He is a magician. All these things, but he comes with this sort of a rare look at things from this different angle, which I think from that perspective, as I read through the materials, it would be a very interesting course for folks to learn from and to help them stay focused, if you will, in their careers. And then, but he weaves all this through to this ultimate goal of establishing this cornerstone of professionalism and trust. So,
after your review, do you believe that taking this course will allow an agent to do a better job for the public?
I think it will. I think that it I think the state courses that we have, we know that they learn certain principles and so forth, but this takes it from a different angle, and I think that as I go about my job, I find that the more interesting courses come each month that seem to, I think, maybe push some concepts and things that you hadn't thought about in a certain way, but that would be beneficial to those licensees in their careers and how they go about their business. It's just a different way to look at things, if you will.
Mr. Bloom, that was one I thought I would have been interested in going and seeing it. I mean, and because I just thought that was a neat way about going about it, doing it through magic. And because I look at one of the conventions that we go to, one of the speakers at the convention that people still talk about, it's been years ago, was a juggler. And that he did the keynote presentation, and people still talk about this juggler that did the presentation there. And so I thought this was a neat idea. So I would approve this one.
And I think focus is a life skill that most people never learn. My 4-year-old grandson goes to Montessori school, and one of the things I love that he's learned there is I will catch him on his own doing something, and I'll hear him go, focus, focus, focus. And, I'm glad he's being taught that, because I lose my focus very easily. So I think that's a skill that, and if you need to focus on anything, it's real estate, and when you're writing a contract or something like that.
Does that school have adult classes, or is it just little classes? I might need to go to that.
Through 6th grade. You might have that.
And what were you talking about again? Diane Hill.
I had a question.
Sir. I got Diane.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So this says it's for 1260-05-.03, and it's for a 1-hour course, this A6. Now, when I look up the 1260-05-.103, 1C, it says to approve a course it must consist of no fewer than 2 hours classroom?
Oh, they, Commissioner
we
Hills, they
change it?
changed that to actually in a law. The rule does not agree with the law, however, but the law says 1 hour, that there's now the ability to have
And
a 1 hour.
I've taken 1 hour, and when I read that,
Yes, ma'am.
over the weekend, I thought, ew. So, okay. Okay.
So,
All right.
Ross, do you think we need to modify a rule, or get those two to, or delete?
I defer to legal. I think that
Delete a
perhaps we
rule,
do
maybe?
need to do that because there is a little disjointed there, but the law definitely allows the 1 hour.
Right. Mr. Douglas.
Being a little facetious here, but I was just curious if an agent who was not a member of the National Association of Realtors would benefit from this course. The reason I'm asking is because it says it demonstrates how realtors must stay focused, and I know realtors is a
And
term
since
that's
Ms.
used for-
Fontaine is not here, I will say that is a registered, and it
Right.
should be in all caps when you say real. You probably should have said licensee, not a realtor.
I think sometimes we make the mistake that a lot of agents make on the commission, even as referring to everyone as a realtor. And there are a lot of agents in the state of Tennessee, I would imagine, who are not members of the National Association of Realtors, right?
Point well taken.
About 1/4.
If a class is offered at a local association, do you have to be a member of that association to take the class?
No, sir.
All right, I think we have a motion to approve A6, and I think Ms. Franks made the motion and Mr. Wood seconded it. Further discussion on this topic or anything else related to educational courses? If not, let's vote. Those in favor of the motion vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no, and that motion passes unanimously. All right, Mr. White, now we have some
So
instructors.
can we get that changed where it's, I mean, do we need to work on that?
We'll ask legal to take a look at that.
Okay,
We can look into changing that during the rulemaking process.
okay, thank you.
Mr. White, instructors. Please, go right ahead, Mr.
Well,
White.
I wanted to know why you took out 25 through 28.
It was an abstention by.
Just an
Diane did.
extension for me
Commissioner.
personally to
Oh,
vote
okay.
for approval.
Okay, okay.
All right, Ross.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I want to present to you the instructors this morning who need approval. I've listed them in their instructor background briefings for your information, and I submit them this morning for your review and approval.
So tell us more about Joseph Tran, entertainer, actor, magician.
That's the
I know that's who we were just talking
Right,
about, but what
correct.
does he know about real estate?
You know, in his background, he has talked to several different career area professionals, and realtors are one of them. But I can't say that he has that much in terms of background as a realtor or in the real estate business. I think his approach to teaching this course may help those, again, to stay on focus and maybe to limit their risks that could ensue if they don't stay focused. So there's some good out of this, and there's some interest in it, and it is a sensational way to approach it. But
I'm just talking about him as the teacher. Is he a licensee?
He is not.
He is not. And what state does he reside in?
I believe it's California, but I'm not. I'd have to look back at that.
So would his classes be online classes, or would they be, since he's an entertainer and actor and magician, would they have to be like, was the Knoxville board wanting to have him come do?
Yes,
Do
he
it.
travels.
Okay.
And he's a TV personality. He's been in movies and all of this, but he does travel to put this on, to put this professional seminar on.
I'll make the motion, we approve this list of
Second.
instructors.
Okay, motion by Mr. Wood. I'll be right with you, Ms. Franks. No, Ms. Hills, sorry. Second by Mr. Bloom.
Okay.
Now, Diane.
I have a question about another instructor. The second one, Eric Kitzner.
You want to pull him out to discuss him, or do you want to? We can do it now. Either way, I'm comfortable
Either
with
way.
it. Let's go ahead and ask his question.
So, I'm not sure what defines a real estate executive. And my question is about being licensed, Tennessee licensed contractor, Tennessee licensed auctioneer.
He is not currently licensed, and that's my failure for not putting in his length of time as a licensee in both contractors and auctioneer. He is no longer licensed as such, but he did have a period of time, I think it was 2003 or 2006 through 2013, I believe, in those areas. But I failed to, when I was a little fast on this, and I should have put his current, he's not current in those, but he has the background in those.
And and is the name of the company Bridgepoint Real Estate and Auction that he's a broker of now?
It's mentioned in his biography that Bridgepoint Real Estate and Auction, that he's the founder of it. But I didn't see where he is, currently with that same company. I did not see that.
Okay.
Was he the president in 2017 of the Northeast
That
Tennessee
he was.
Association?
That he was. The other things, this doesn't reflect, as Mr. White says, that there were dates. I guess, and I struggle with our state system that it's hard to determine who the broker is always. I'm not sure when we go to great lengths to say we're doing something to protect the public, and you can't go online and figure out who the broker is of a company. So when you look for a firm, it doesn't show who the broker is and things like that. Now, if you have a particular name and you look up a name, it can say principal broker, and it's just y'all may be able to see more than the public.
And see that I've expressed our interest in including that in the new Verify site. So I'm not going to guarantee one way or the other. That's
I've been requesting it for 3 years.
Yeah, that is a little bit of a nuance to just us. But I have requested it. We can see that, so anytime anybody wants to reach out to us and ask that, we can provide that.
So I guess my question now would be, now that Mr. White's clarified that, is that if the firm that he works for is real estate and auction, if there's no auction firm license.
It was not clear in what he submitted that he is currently working there at that Bridgepoint.
Caitlin, is that something, if we took a 5-minute break, could we get the answer to that question?
Yes, I was actually going to get, my phone isn't loading right now, but Anna's connected to the Wi-Fi, so we'll
Let's
confirm.
take 5 minutes and get the answer to that question. Might be a good time to stretch, go to the bathroom, whatever.
This is a very young man.
Well, at the time we left, Ms. Hills had a question about a potential instructor.
Okay, so from what I found, the company is now Bridgepoint Real Estate. There's no auction in their firm name. And Eric Kistner is the principal broker, and he has been since 2014.
I guess I would like to make a motion that we hold approval on Eric Kistner till next month.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, motion by Ms. Hill, seconded by Ms. Franks, and I'm going to take that motion to include a motion to approve the instructors with the exception of Mr. Kistner, and we'll take him back up next month again, once you're comfortable with the
sorry,
data.
I didn't.
That's fine. Is that okay with you as well, Ms. Franks? Okay, further discussion. All right, let's vote. Those in favor of that motion vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion passes unanimously. Mr. White, what else do you have for us today?
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
What about this broker earlier this morning that said she was concerned that pre-licensing doesn't do much more than help people pass the test? Do you agree with that?
Well, my comment would be that I do agree with that post education. I think that would be something the Commission might want to consider, given that the courses that we currently have do help prepare to some degree the person to practice real estate, but maybe by a larger degree for them to pass the exam. However, it is what it is. We have a 60-hour principles course. We have a 30-hour new affiliates course, and that's supposed to help prepare the individual at least to begin their career. But the idea that Commissioner Wood was talking about, I think maybe study the idea of having that post education. I think that would be helpful to everyone. I think it'd be a win-win, but it is what it is right now.
And when do we look at the core class again? Because we're the ones who approve and say what needs to be in that core class.
Core class, we wanted to have it up this time. However, we had some concerns, and I ran it by legal. The director and I discussed it, and we will have that ready for the next month.
We need to keep that in mind, I think, when we do that.
Right. Ms. Hills.
In preparing for this meeting, I'd read this section about education. So, and on our report for the classes, it has something like name, address, and things like that. So when the education is, when the class has been taught, the instructor submits the education to the state for posting. Do they include where the class has been, and is there a way to say, is it at a real estate company office or something like that?
I review these documents when they come in. I ascertain that they're not teaching them at a real estate agency. And any questions I have along those lines, I always explain to them that you've got to have the distinction where you teach the course where you do real estate business. That's an understood, I think. However, as I look at these documents, I don't ever find, if I see that there's something indicating they're teaching it at that real estate agency. In fact, Mr. Kister here, at least through emails, I explained that that's got to be separate. And he should understand that, and that's kind of the way that is right now.
But when they submit the roster, they put where the class was taken, the date and where it was, or anything like that?
On the roster, it does indicate, at least cursorily, where, or that it came from this potential, that provider, rather. Came from a certain provider with that 4-digit code. That would necessarily say where the formula to submit for course for the course credit doesn't have where the course was taken, where it was
so
given.
we never get that information.
We do at least 50 to 60% of what I get in will say that they're going to have the course and give it on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday somewhere in Tennessee, but it's not a definite with everyone. There's an implication that they're going to have it at the provider's location, wherever that might be. Then if it's, of course, if it's internet, then, then it'll be online. We're not worrying about it. It's a distance course.
And it just reminded me that in March I was attending a trade association meetings, and I was approached by a couple people through education, involved in education, asking me about locations and what qualified for locations, and I knew the rule about not in the real estate office, but one was stated that that they had knowledge of it being places maybe it shouldn't have been, and that's why I was wondering if we have the rule, how's it checked? And I'm not an instructor, so maybe Bobby or Gary can.
It's not sent in. I mean, there'll be some places. Let's say, for instance, if the Greater Nashville Association sends in something, you pretty much know it was taught there at their association. But like, there could be an individual instructor like myself. I have a couple classes approved. I can go teach them wherever. But a lot of times that association that I might teach for, they're going to turn it in, and so you make the assumption it was taught at their place. But I mean, I heard a couple of those things too at the meeting, and all I asked people to send it in, because if we were to catch somebody doing it, say a broker like myself teaching at my own office and giving credit, then that would be real easy. The next meeting, we'll just come in and take away that ability for that person to do the class, and we'll take that class and no longer make it approved, and we'll put a stop to that real quick. And so I heard that, but when it come time to them actually telling us who and where, I've not heard anything more. So,
thank you.
And you're making me a little bit nervous. So there's obviously something in your mind that something's, that you don't have to say at our meeting. But I would encourage you to talk to him and let him know about what your concern is.
Or you can tell it in the meeting.
And I picked up at one of the Arello meetings one time. Apparently, North Carolina was having some of the issues, and so what they did was they started sending out a survey. And originally, it was to kind of see if their instructors were instructing, and they'd send out a survey. Hey, if you'll respond to this survey, we'll give you 1 hour of free CE. And they didn't do it for everybody in the class, but just some. Of course, people would go, hey, I'll fill out a survey for 1 free hour. And then they started getting, people would say, well, I'll tell you this. It was a 4-hour class, but he only kept us 45 minutes, told us we could leave. And so they started cleaning house and instructors that were doing that kind of stuff. So if we start seeing it, I mean, why couldn't we do something like that and get to the bottom of it? I mean, somebody will fill out that survey over our CE.
Because we have good guidelines, good rules and things. I guess my question is,
I mean, I don't think Ross has to tell them, okay, now you have to do it, because that's the rules.
Right.
I mean, it's in the rules when you go to say, I want a class. So.
Diane, is your primary concern that they're not being open to the public, or is it that?
One, because I sort of questioned when, and I was approached by more than one person, that it was not open to the public, and it was, let me think, not open to the public was really the main thing. Yes, and then there's another incident where. And I'd have to look for the code where the instructor, it's allowing recruiting in the class, or the teacher. And I've interviewed 2 people that said that they that was a big turnoff because it was so strongly trying to influence them.
That's directly in the laws of.
I know.
It's prohibited.
I agree. So that's just my question. I think we have good rules. It's just that it's just a harder thing to.
If you're not a licensee, if you're from California, if you've never had a real estate license, how can you follow the rules and laws of Tennessee if you don't know them? That's my concern too about someone out of state.
Mr. Bloom.
Well, I wonder if we couldn't just put a line next to the roster that turns into Ross White that says the location of instruction.
I think that's a possibility. The only thing I would add is that I think when Ross reviews them and summarizes them for you guys, that's sort of the first indication of what kind of course it's going to be. But once we see them for the rosters, they're already approved. So I think, like Bobby said, what we really need is for people to let us know of the instances where people are not following the rules and, not opening the courses to the public, not those sort of things. So.
But people know the rules and they're still breaking them evidently, so I wonder if we couldn't just put a line there, say the location where this was instruction took place.
Simple.
Then they'd be guilty of fraud or lying or whatever.
So,
They know what the rules are, but evidently some people are breaking them, so
well, what's to say that somebody isn't going to just put a
they
false
can do that.
location?
Yeah,
And the other thing that I would add is that I can check, but currently we upload those into the system and they have to be very specific. We go back and forth with a lot of providers because, without getting into too much detail, they've got to have their course code in this column, they've got to have a space there, then they've got to have, the course credit code, and we are back and forth with a lot of people about getting that correct. So that it can be uploaded into our system, so it can be added to all licensees' files. So from an administrative standpoint, I think the best way to check it would be on the front end, and then also to ask that people let us know when.
All right. Thank you, Mr. White, Ms. Maxwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission.
All right, let's get on to the executive director's report. Ms. Maxwell.
Okay, well, we have had no staffing changes, so I did not include that. And then, for the most part, you'll see the same statistics. I know last month there were some questions about complaints and about specifically about complaints not going down since we've removed broker supervision complaints. And so I did a little bit of a deeper dive into complaints this month. The one thing I'll note is previously broker supervision complaints were being opened on 2501s, which are our affiliates and brokers. And obviously they're not being opened on unlicensed activity because there's no licensee, so there's no principal broker. I'm going to continue to look at it. I have a feeling our complaints are up in general because, it's the summer. There's a lot of people out there buying and selling homes. So in general, it's going to be higher than it might be in December. But in addition, the other client codes that you'll see is 2502, which are firms, 2505 and 2506, vacation lodging and timeshares. So those weren't duplicative, and then I also included a column of unlicensed activity. Are there any questions about those numbers?
Question?
Yes.
On our financial report,
Yes.
it looked like, well, first of all, I just noticed that we had a net deficit for the month of June, which we haven't had in a long time. But it looked like legal costbacks have increased pretty significantly over the past 2 months. Is there any explanation for that?
I was also asking about that, and what I can say is I believe starting in January, they switched to hourly billing. Before, it was a combination of our number of complaints versus the number of attorneys that we had dedicated. Now they're doing a more standard legal of doing hourly billing. We had 468 legal hours over the course of June. Currently, we have a more dedicated staff that are working solely on TREC, which administratively I find very helpful. So I think that could be part of the increase, is that now we have staff that are solely working on TREC, whereas before their time might have been split between us and many other programs. We'll continue to watch that just to make sure that it doesn't impact our budget, but I think that could be part of the reason. Yes.
Oh, if I could follow up on that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a 12-month period that ends June 2018.
Correct.
That's into the fiscal year, is that right or not?
It is.
Okay, so if you look at the spreadsheet, it looks like the Real Estate Commission had a over $522,000 surplus for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2018. Is that correct?
Under
All of
the
this on the
yearly.
page by itself at the end.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, so I would anticipate that decreasing at least slightly because of some fee reduction rules we've put in place. But that's a pretty significant number, I would assume.
I've not compared it to other programs, but yes.
Okay, so my next question doesn't necessarily go along with that number, but speaking of your staff, are you fully staffed at this point?
I am.
And do you have enough staff? Are you current?
I feel like I have enough staff. I have a couple of things in the works. We also have one temporary employee right now that's assisting with administrative items. So our licensing numbers, as far as number of days, are significantly lower than last year. So that's something that we're continuously looking at. We're also continuously looking at phone calls and wait times and people getting the assistance that they need. And so I feel comfortable with the number that we currently have.
Just to follow up one more time on that, the alternate workplace.
Yes.
So let's say you have 10 staff members. I don't know what the number is.
Yes.
How many of those have qualified to take advantage of that?
So out of the staff that we have, there are currently 3 that are not participating in alternative workplace solutions, one being the temporary employee. That's not an option for them. And then 1 is still relatively new. I'd actually like for you guys to meet him. So with new employees, I'm making sure that they're well-equipped and well-trained before giving the option to go to alternative workplace solutions. And then, it was not mandatory to do it. So we also have one staff that's not Ross, I'm just going to say, has not elected to do alternative workplace solutions yet. So right now there's no requirement to do it. Most of the staff are dying to do it. So, yes.
Ross likes to sit in his Toyota Highlander in traffic. I mean, that's what I think it's such a good.
Ross likes to interact.
Well, that's good.
So,
Ms. Franks.
So you're participating in that, right?
When I can, yes.
Okay. And so does that mean, how many days in the office would you be in then?
So I just look at it week to week. If I have any meeting, then I come in for the meeting and come in for that day. If I am just doing heads down work, then so typically I do it about 2 days a week and are in 3, but it can be in as little as 2. Most of the staff are doing 2 days in and then 3 days out, and we have 1 all-in day, which I wouldn't change. All staff are in on Wednesday.
And so you said that you had some new people.
Yes.
And they've not chosen, or you've not allowed them to do that. So they're here 5 days a week.
I do.
So on the 2 days that you're not here, who's supervising them or training them?
So we have arranged a schedule in such that, well, of course, Ross is here every day, but I have made it to where the manager is here a different day than I'm here and alternate it that way. So the way I see it, there really should not be a day where there's not either the education director, myself, or the manager that are in office.
So if a licensee was to call into the TREC office and ask to speak to you, and you were not here, how do you get those calls?
Our phones still work.
They ring at your house?
No, my computer, my phone is set up on my computer.
Phones. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great.
But most of them are protective, I should say, and so typically would try to handle any issues. But they can forward me a phone call just like they can when I'm in office. We have a system that we use called Jabber that is my phone. So goes to the same number. If you called me, you might not even know that you were talking to me at home. So
Oh, you don't have dogs barking here, do you?
I was going to mention that, but I think I've gotten that resolved.
Just kidding. All right, thanks for the questions. Thanks for the answers. Caitlin, let's talk about Arello.
Yes. So Arello's coming up at the end of September. Begins on September 27th, and then runs, actually, I believe, 26th to the 30th. And I've pulled the list, which is a little bit out of order because I know last time many people were not able to attend. But it's in St. Louis. So
Oh, we have 2 slots, 2 commissioners can go,
the commissioners, yes.
and that's already been approved.
So I've started the tentative paperwork to get the travel authorization approved, and I included 2 commissioners, the director, and then the attorney with the approval of the commission.
All right, Ms. Franks, you'd like to, we'd like for you to
I
attend.
would, but I mean, I told her last night, I'm going regardless. I'm on 2 committees. I'm also a board member, so I have to be there. But I love it when other members of the commission go too, because I think it's important for them to go too. So I asked her to get the list and go down the list, who's next on the list, and if there's 2 people that want to go, that's fine. There'll be 3 of us go.
So, members of commission, September 26th through September 30th.
It's a Wednesday through Sunday. It's at the Ritz-Carlton in St. Louis.
Now, that changed my opinion a little bit.
When you don't go to Canada.
Yeah. I will tell you, in 2020, unfortunately, I voted nay, but our committee chose to go to Montreal in 2020. We have a lot of Canadian members, though, and we have lots of countries that are members, but a lot of the Canadian commissioners.
All right, commissioners,
Seems like they want to come to America.
we can go through the list, or are there commissioners that know they can't go? We can start with that, or won't be able to go, or don't want to go.
I can't go.
Bobby can't. I can't.
I cannot.
Gary can't. Austin can't. That gets us down to Rick and Diane. Rick,
You know, I haven't been, I really would like to go, but September 26th, I know, is a conflict with me.
Is that a football game?
I mean, no, it's not a football game.
I have a football game.
It's actually a closing.
Ooh,
that I have
oh,
on
yay.
September 26th, but I may be able to rearrange that. So.
We have.
I make a motion that Marcia and Rick, Marcia Franks and Rick Douglas attend the Arello September
you showed up
meeting.
on the 27th instead of the 26th. I mean, the 26th is just a big social with a lot of food.
If you can't, then maybe.
Well, that's the part I would enjoy the most.
If you can't, then maybe Fontaine and Johnny.
Okay, the motion on the floor is to ask Marcia Franks and Rick Douglas to represent the Tennessee Real Estate Commission at the Arello meeting in St. Louis during the period of 9/26 through September 30th. Discussion on the motion. Let's vote. Those in favor of that motion vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion passes unanimously. All right, Ms. Maxwell, what else on your report?
That's all I have.
Further questions for Ms. Maxwell? Ms. Hills?
So I just want to be sure I understood you correctly. So you're saying with the we have solely dedicated staff. Are you saying Robin, Denard, Kelsey, and Erica, and Anna? So
Only Anna.
oh, we only have Anna. So
Yes, Anna currently is fully dedicated to track.
okay, all right. That was
others
my
do other boards.
clarification. Okay.
To be clear, Anna is not on the Trek payroll, for lack of a better term. She's with legal, but she's assigned to us full-time.
Hours are billed to us.
And what about these other attorneys sitting out here that are looking at
Their
phone?
hours are also billed to us.
When do they start? Like when they show up in this room, or?
Oh, they're nonstop.
And
Who keeps track of it? Do you audit to make sure that we get our services from it?
That's why they're on their phone. They're putting their 15 minutes down.
I believe they submit their hours to, yeah.
Also, the auditor situation.
They are in the process of hiring somebody. I believe that a offer has been given. We're just waiting on HR and those sort of things.
Did we lose our auditor?
Yes, and when we had our auditor, when we waited, when I came, we didn't have an auditor, and then when we got an auditor, and was our auditor, and then evidently we were sharing the auditor.
Yes, I believe that happened sometime in 2016, maybe, and they would spend a portion of their time on our Trek audits, and then.
So the new auditor would do it that same way?
Yes.
Okay.
That same way be Sharon or?
Sharing.
Yeah, spending a portion of their time on Trek and then a portion of their time on, and then it would, be the same way where it would be billed sort of by time spent.
All right. Thank you, Caitlin. Next up is a category called Commission Discussions. We have one item still listed on that for this meeting. That's virtual offices.
We do also have 2 medical waivers.
Oh, I skipped right by that. I'm sorry. Let's do those first. Tony Mayola.
Okay, so we have licensee Tony Miola. She reached out to us. Her license is currently in a retired status, and she's been experiencing medical issues for the last year. Her statement and doctor's note are on your iPads. I also included, she's been licensed since 2003. Her fee request is for a waiver of $1,000. She is currently in a retired status, so she is not affiliated, and she does not have E&O, and is not required to do education. And she has no disciplinary history.
I could, I'm not prepared. The article that where we have authority to do it is where?
Medical waivers. 1260.01.21.
This license has been expired how long? Since 8/13.
So she's very close to the 1 year. She did reach out to us right around the time of the last meeting, but not in time to get on the agenda.
So it requires that she has a doctor's statement that attesting to the nature and length of the illness. Is this person that signed this a doctor?
I would assume so. It's from a medical group.
All those letters are.
Caitlin, while they're looking at that.
I think that's family nurse practitioner, so not an MD, but practices.
So if a person puts a license in retirement, they have to continue to pay $80 every 2 years. Do they also have to keep up with education requirements during that period?
They do not, but they do have to do them prior to becoming active.
And has she done that?
She would like to go back into retirement. Part of her statement said that she's still not in great medical health, but I think hopes to practice again one day. So,
Is her, do you have to have errors and omissions when you're in retirement?
you do not.
Okay.
You primarily just have to pay the renewal fee to keep it in that status.
So if I'm sitting here and I decide I'm going to go into retirement, I have to have my education current to be placed into
To
retirement.
be placed into retirement, everything has to be current. You have to be in a good status. Once you're in retirement, you have to pay your renewal fee, and then as soon as you want to bring it out of retirement, you have to have a firm affiliation. You have to have E&O insurance. You have to do 16 hours prior to coming back licensed. So you have to meet all the requirements prior to changing your status from retired to active.
So we would be having this person who had their education current when they went into retirement not have current education to go back into retirement now?
Yes. So essentially, if the commission said no, she would pay the $1,080 and go back into retired status. If you waived the fee, she would still have to pay the $80 to renew her license and go back into retired status.
But not take any additional education?
No, until she was ready to practice and become back active. When she wanted to become active, she would have to take the 16 hours.
Is she grandfathered?
Um,
Or is this an affiliate or a broker's license?
This is an affiliate. So I would have to look up whether she's grandfathered or not.
No, they're not. Not for affiliate.
Mr. Bloom.
Yes, if I was requesting a medical waiver and she cites a heart and cancer potential, I'd have a letter from either my cardiologist or my cancer treatment doctor. And she has a letter from a family physician. Well, it's not even a physician, nurse practitioner. So I would be for this if she had a letter from either one of those two, which is what she's claiming is the reason for her not being able to renew her license.
You want to defer this for 30 days and see if you get...
If we defer it, though, does that kick her out and gets her over the 1 year
It throws her
where she can't?
on page 81, the last condition, number 3. The 1 year.
License expired more than 1 year?
Well, I think...
You must reapply for licensure?
I suspect this commission has the ability to say, let's stop the clock on this while we get some more information.
Sure.
So, Gary, is that your motion that
Yes, sir.
you asked for?
Second.
Okay. The motion offered by Mr. Bloom, seconded by Ms. Hills, is to defer this item for 30 days and ask the licensee if she can provide additional, more specific information.
More specific, yeah.
All right, let's vote on that motion. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion passes unanimously. All right, next up is Donnie Miller.
Donnie Miller, he submitted medical records, but I know previously that was a little bit more information than you actually wanted. So I did include the doctor's note that was provided, and that's attached. His license expired 9/30/2017. He's been licensed since March 6, 2003. His request is to waive the $900 in late penalties. He's an affiliate broker. He does not currently have E&O insurance, so he would have to get that prior to renewing. But he is up to speed on all of his education. He has not had any disciplinary history.
Hi, Commissioners. Any thoughts on this one? The letter says he's been delayed in getting his educational requirements.
He's now met those.
Okay.
If memory serves me correct, I believe he completed all those in June of 2018.
I know. The question is, what do you want to do with this guy? Do you want to grant his request, grant a partial request, take shelter in the basement?
Take shelter in the basement's what I'm thinking.
There's a closet. I think, a closet back here.
That just happened like within about 2 or 3 minutes,
I know.
didn't it?
No.
At least the wind's blowing from that side.
So
Motion
if,
to approve.
Thank you, Mr. McMullen. We have a
Second.
motion to approve, second by Mr. Wood. The motion, if passed, will let Mr. Miller, the commission will agree to waive late fees related to his license. Further discussion? Those in favor of the motion vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. That motion passes unanimously.
I want to abstain.
And one abstention, Mr. Bloom. All right, let's take a 5-minute break.
somebody look at the weather?
Yeah, I thought that might be in order.
And I know one in particular, that I was recruited. A person didn't know that I was a commissioner or that I owned my own company and was a principal broker, but tried to recruit me, so I just asked a lot of questions. And the questions, the answers were, you never have to get with your principal broker, you just hang your license. And I'm like, where's the office? Well, it's a room on West End Avenue in Nashville, but you never have to go there. So that bothers me, and it's happening nationwide and in Canada too. I know, but so I'm not sure exactly what we need to do about that, but just be aware of it. But the thing that is happening that's concerning me the most is that principal brokers, one of these companies is advertising you get your money at the closing. The title company gives you your money. So when I asked about that, they said that the principal broker gives their okay to the title company to write the checks from the title company and pay the agent directly at the closing with the title company check. It's not a matter of the broker is taking the checks up there that are signed by them and they fill it out. The checks are coming from the title companies. Now, it's my opinion, and everyone that has talked about this at Arello, that that's improper and shouldn't be taking place, because only the office where their license is should be paying these people. It's real prevalent in Nashville, in Middle Tennessee, I know. So I would like for us, and while there's probably nothing that we could do about that today at this meeting, I would at least like to have some conversation about that and see how you feel about it, and if possible, to even take a vote on what our feeling is, to give some direction to these companies that are going that direction with their business model.
Ms. Matlock, can you quote what the statute says? Do you have that?
The supervision statute?
That says
Who pays
only
commissions?
One, I found one.
okay, well, let's go.
6213-312 on page 40. B 11 and then you're 14, but accepting a commission or any valuable consideration by an affiliate broker for the performance of any acts specified in this chapter from any person except the licensed real estate broker with whom the licensee is affiliated.
So is the opinion of the chair is speaking for himself. That's pretty dang clear.
So it's not a responsibility that a broker can hand off to a title company.
In my opinion, I'll give you my opinion. My opinion is the same way. We have people, when the question comes up for office manager, assistant, or something like that, you could have a chain, but when the buck stops, the broker is the one responsible. And this is the same way.
Other thoughts? Mr. McMullen?
When you have the closing that occurs, the broker is entitled to the commission as part of the closing, and that's shown on the closing statement. Is that right?
Right.
And so what you're having is then the broker just authorizing the title company to go ahead and out of the broker's portion of that money pay a check to an affiliate to pay a commission that the affiliate is owed. Is that what's happening?
Yes.
That's still, I mean, it's not the title company's money, in my opinion. And so it looks like to me they're still accepting the consideration from the broker because that money belongs to the broker. It's not the title company's money. The title company is only doing what the broker told them to do. I mean, if you got a direct payment from the broker's account at Regions Bank didn't send you the money. The broker sent you the money. So I don't see the problem, but that's just my opinion.
Okay, I'm not understanding what you just said then. What?
I thought you were saying, I thought my understanding was that there was some sense that there was a problem that at a closing, the affiliate would receive their check for their commission from that closing, as opposed to I don't know how it would happen otherwise, maybe going to the broker's office and being handed a check or something like that. Is that?
They're being paid by a title company. The checks has written on it the title company's name, not the real estate company's name. So the money is coming from their account.
Well, but a title company is just holding that money in escrow. It's not really the title company's money. And that's money that was earned by the broker as part of that transaction, and the broker is just directing the title company out of the money that's owed to the broker to pay that to the affiliate. It's my understanding of the way that transaction works. So to me, it doesn't seem like the affiliate is accepting compensation from the title company. They're accepting compensation from the broker. It wouldn't be any different, I don't think, than if a broker had just like I do, I have an online banking account at Regions Bank, and if I owe you some money, you send me an invoice, I can put you in my Regions Bank online bill pay, and I can push the button, and Regions Bank will send you money. But that money's not being paid by Regions Bank, it's being paid by me. I don't really see any difference between Regions Bank and the title company in that situation.
Mr. Hanks, do you also, are you also seeing in your area or have heard of a fee being paid to a licensee or a company for using the title company?
Not heard of that. Somebody has to pay the title company, though, to do that.
No, I mean
They're not gonna do it
more
for free.
of bringing, you bring business to me, and like the home warranties would want to give you $50 or something when they wanted to give you $50 for the real estate firm, $50 for using that home warranty company. For everyone you use, they wanted to give you $50 for that. Is that involved in this too?
I'm not sure about that. I don't know.
I think how it should be done is if you're earning money and you're earning it because you have a real estate license, then the law says it comes through the brokerage. It's the broker's money. And then that's a deal between you and your broker. But I'm hearing more and more stories where that's not the case anymore. Because I've had people approach me saying, hey, you know, if you send people to me for insurance in the course of your transactions, then I'll just write you a check. And to me, that's not what the law is. It's got to go back to the brokerage. I think it all goes back to control. I mean, our rules and our laws are very clear. The broker's in control. And part of the control from a broker is there's money, and then two, they also, part of the transaction, you're getting a copy of the closing statement, you're looking at the documents to see if it's done like what the contract said. If you no longer even see the money or see the closing documents, you're basically giving up all control of the closing part of the transaction. And, I mean, I mean, I could see it would be okay if a broker says to a title company, by the way, here's some of my checks. You just go ahead and write my checks out of my checkbook and give it to it. And I think that would be, according to our law, okay. It's just a risky maneuver, but if they're willing to do that, swell. But I don't think we should just say, it came from the title company and I'll just let y'all do it. Because I can envision then any time we were ever to say to somebody, oh, well, the money's not coming to the brokerage house, it's going straight to the agent, and then the agent go, oh, the broker said it was okay. I mean, I think we'd open up a big can of worms if we let that happen.
A logical extension to me would be, so we have business models where the agent gets all the commission. They pay a fee. Basically, the broker is the landlord. And so if you buy the argument that the broker can authorize the title company to pay the agent, but a logical extension also be that the broker could tell the seller, as an example, go ahead and pay your agent directly. You don't even have to put it on the closing statement.
Also, what if the broker says to a team, it's okay for you, team leader, to pay your licensees that are on your team, and it's cut from some sort of team group.
If I may interject for a moment, if we are going to be looking at the issue of commissions being paid by title companies or brokers, we can look into that, into the statute, and read into it and give an opinion. We're not prepared to do that today. We would need to look at the statute more closely and consult with our client before making that opinion. I was mistaken. I thought we were discussing virtual offices for today, but I understand this is an important issue. So I would just like to say, as far as interpretation of the rules and laws, legal can come back at the next meeting next month if that is what the commission would like and give you an opinion on that matter.
And I think it's good that our attorney is going to Arello too, so that she can get some information there as to what's going on and what's working and what's not. I'm not trying to add regulations here. I'm just trying to protect the public and make sure that what the law is and the statute is, that we are following that.
I understand.
Go ahead.
Rick.
I'm sorry.
Go, Rick. Your turn. My fault.
No, I just wanted to. I agreed with Commissioner McMullen. I think that the title company escrow is just a disbursement mechanism. When someone gets a new mortgage on a home and the old mortgage is paid off, that's the disbursement mechanism. I mean, it's not one mortgage company direct. I mean, they are paying off the other mortgage company, but they're using that as an avenue to do so. I mean, it's a disbursement mechanism, and I think, all that would be necessary, in my opinion, was just get a form signed by the broker authorizing that disbursement, and it's right there on a settlement statement. It tells who it comes from and who it goes to. So it's not like the affiliate is getting paid directly by someone other than the broker. The broker is paying them. It's on the settlement statement. You got debits and credits, and I think I don't see how requiring someone to drive over to an office and pick up a check directly from the broker is adding any additional protection to the public than having it right there on a disbursement or settlement statement where it tells who it came from and who it's going to. So that's just my opinion.
I think the discussion is healthy and should be done because there are other things that come from it. So sometimes you think it seems simple and it's really not. With the virtual office, for example, we had an offer that was sent to us, and it was from a virtual office, and it put that because offices can waive having a escrow account, that virtual office, wherever it was, struggled with that. Put on the purchase and sale agreement that our company was to hold the escrow account, the escrow money. Had 3 days. So I'm not a party to that purchase and sale. The buyers and the sellers are. So they agreed that our company was to hold that money, and I'm the one supposed to get find the purchaser or the purchaser's agent to collect money who I've never met. We have the listing I've never met, and I had 3 days to get that into my account. So my point is, sometimes there are things that cause a problem where it seems to be simple. It could be a problem. I managed to do it. I was concerned, and I was gonna ask for an amendment if I couldn't get it. But here I'm trying to get money from someone I've never met before, not even our client, but it was put in there, and I was not a party to that contract.
I don't think you have any obligation if you're not a party to the contract. Now, you might want
Now
to
the
do it because
state
they have
does,
your-
because it says the
client.
contract. The auditor with the state would say I would. If I didn't get those funds in there and it matched that contract, I'm the one that's in trouble, not that virtual office. I'm the one that's in trouble.
Oh, that's for sure. I was
I would-
audited in March.
Yeah, yeah, that's a biggie. So my point is, there are other things that come from it that may catch you that you're not thinking about.
And really, my goal is for us to just be thinking about this and kind of be looking and seeing. And if there's no problem with it, maybe we should have no problem. But if the problems are arising, I'd just like for us to be able to get ahead of it, so we can know what to do before it comes before us, so that we could have a legal opinion, and to do it right.
And with that virtual office and that situation that I was dealing with in our company, having the listing, I couldn't look at that agent's license and know who the broker was.
Because of Verify.
Yeah.
Yes, and had you reached out, I could have probably told you. But,
I know, but
But we shouldn't have to.
we shouldn't
Or
have.
we shouldn't have.
Well,
we
to.
shouldn't have 100 people calling you today.
I guess just out of curiosity, how hard is that to find out if you just look their name up and look up their website, or
I Googled it and I found 3 addresses.
Okay.
And especially if it just says Keller Williams. A lot of them just say Keller Williams, and we have lots of Keller Williams offices in the state. Or Cry-like.
So when you talk about a virtual office, you help me understand what this is. This is like a firm that has no physical address?
It has to have a physical address, but it's probably just
It's an office rental place.
Right.
Where you can rent out a suite and have an address.
As opposed to a place where they just sit all the time?
It's not about sitting.
Well, but I mean, what is the opposite of a virtual office?
A brick and mortar. Well,
Okay,
they have brick and mortar.
Could a brick and mortar, whatever opposite of a virtual office, I mean, could they also not have an escrow account and put in a contract that you got to keep the money, and then some auditor comes after you for not keeping the money?
Anybody
So
can
that's
not
that's
have
not
an
a
escrow account.
But
though.
that's not a virtual office problem. That's a problem with somebody not having an escrow account and putting something in a contract and trying to bind you. And anybody could try to do that, not
Right.
just a virtual office.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And not just a virtual office could try to get their affiliate paid out of escrow, right? I mean,
And listen,
anybody could do that.
these days, everything I need is on this right here. Everything, because we scan our files. I can go to Dropbox. I can, everything is on there. So the day of requiring realtors to come sit in the office in case somebody drops by, I mean, those days are pretty much gone because it's done electronically. I just think we want to make sure that the laws are applied, whether it's electronic or whether it's a normal, everyday brick and mortar office.
Commissioner Bloom.
Yeah, I want us not to confuse what we normally do with the law. And there's the other day I came to Nashville with my daughter, who's a realtor, and she sold a piece of property in the front seat of my car and got a copy of that contract to everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that.
DocuSign.
I don't know how to do that. But I'm just saying the
Can be done.
business.
That's what we do.
Yeah, the business is changing, and I'm thinking with Gary Bloom's mindset way back yonder and trying to make rules and regulations on people who are way ahead of me. And I don't think we ought to do that. And I also don't think we ought to be making rules that are at variance to our legal counsel. Not our legal counsel out there, but the one on the commission. If he's saying we need to slow walk this and take another look at it, I think we need to slow walk this and take another look at it.
It's just one opinion. I mean, mine's just
But
one
it's
opinion.
a legal
but
opinion.
You could bill us.
Are you going to charge us? Yeah.
462 hours.
Marcia, what do you say we put this topic off until after this Arello meeting in
Okay,
September?
that's
Maybe
fine
put
with
it
me.
back on the agenda in October.
But I would like for everybody to kind of be looking and seeing, so you can have an informed opinion about it.
Mr. Wood.
And just kind of tied up, go back to where you originally talked about, you were wanting to talk about virtual office. The paycheck part of it, or the commission check, is one small piece of the virtual office. And not to beat this horse, but I mean, another part of that is the broker supervision is part of it. And just kind of bring a point home and tie this thing up. I got a call about 3 weeks ago from a friend, used to be an agent with me. She says, I want to ask you a real estate question. And said, so she gives me the scenario, and I start answering it, and I said, wait a minute. Why aren't you talking to your own broker? And she starts laughing. And she goes, you know why? And I said, that's right, because you have this virtual broker, don't you? And she's probably at a company you're talking about. I mean, so there are companies that are out there that are calling themselves brokerages, but they don't want to do any of the things that the law requires brokers to do. That's the problem. Okay.
It sounds like we have a problem more of enforcement of existing rules as opposed to needing to pass new rules.
Yes.
But it's a question of
Yes.
it's a question of how do you find those instances where somebody is not following the rules and get that into the legal system.
But just because people are not going by the rules doesn't mean the rules aren't good, that we should change the rules. So,
All right, Commissioners, if you'll follow Marcia's advice and think about this topic for the next couple of months, we'll put it back in the agenda in October in Upper East Tennessee, where apparently they don't follow any rules at all up there. It might be the perfect place to talk about it.
Is that your personal opinion?
Just based on what she tells me. All right, let's get on the legal report. I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner McMullen.
We'll start on the consent agenda. Do we have any matters on the consent agenda? Let's see. Let's start out with Ms. Bridges. And my computer here locks up every few minutes, so let me see. What numbers do you have, Ms. Bridges?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
On the consent agenda, which numbers do you have?
Okay.
hey, Austin.
Hey.
Okay, before Ross leaves back here, I want to ask a question.
Okay.
You just think about this. I wasn't here last meeting, but the last meeting there was a discussion about education and about instructors. And do instructors get credit when they teach a course? So do they get credit for the course while they're teaching it? And it was talked about a lot. What I got from that was we do not give instructors credit for teaching their own courses.
That is correct.
Okay. Do we need to make a policy of that, or have we got that? I mean, I think over the years there's been different things done just over long terms of time, and I'm good with that. I think that's the right play. But do we need to put a rule out to that, or is that just
I defer to legal on that.
Okay? All right. Well, if you'll just think through that and talk to them.
I would say a rule over a policy.
Okay.
Because I think in the last few years we've been trying to get away with policy, do away with policy.
Okay. Just whatever.
So, Ms. Bridges, you have 1 through 26 on the consent agenda, is that right? Does anybody have any of number 1 through 26 that they want to take off of the consent agenda?
19.
I hear 19. Any others?
No.
Well, 1 through
26 on the consent agenda.
21, 22.
Any others, 1 through 26? So we're going to take 19, 21, and 22 off of Ms. Bridges' portion of the consent agenda. Any others? Do we need to read those numbers?
Well, I was going to ask Commissioner Bloom, 19 is with regard to a principal broker. Did you want me to discuss the affiliate broker's complaint as well?
You know, I think I want to take that off.
So no 19?
Well, I just had a question. We had an interim manager making a decision for the broker, which I guess is you can do that. I think I need to take that off.
Okay.
More of a curiosity question and whether it's
So are you okay with leaving 19 on the consent agenda?
I am, yes.
Okay.
So then that's just numbers 21 and 22? Okay, 21 is 2018-025291. Should I go ahead and read that?
Why don't we go ahead and let's take care of 1 through 20 and 23 through 26.
Okay, so number 1, 2018-016761. Number 2 is 2018-016821. Number 3, 2018-018331. Number 4, 2018-018671. Number 5, 2018-019611. Number 6, 2018-019571. Number 7, 2018-019671. Number 8, 2018-019711. Number 9, 2018-020921. Number 10, 2018-021101. Number 11, 2018-021121. Number 12, 2018-021971. Number 13, 2018-022041. Number 14, 2018-023311. Number 15 is 2018-023221. Number 16 is 2018-024121. Number 17 is 2018-024181. Number 18 is 2018-024311. Number 19, 2018-024331. Number 20 is 2018-024611. Number 23 is 2018-025671. 24, 2018-027381. 25 is 2018-025531. And number 26 is 2018-025871.
Okay, for those matters, you have heard the numbers read. You've seen the recommendation of council. Let's go ahead and vote. All in favor of accepting council's recommendation for those matters, please vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, vote no.
I have a question.
Yes.
First of all, thank you. I like how you started into your complaints. Thank you. And I'm sure Ms. Commissioner Taylor would say the same thing.
I'm so sad she's not here.
I am too. So that's why I want to have it on the record.
She may be watching.
So when she watches, she can see. And I'll just use number 14 and 15 as examples. It seems like this time there were several timeshares that once things got set, a complaint was filed, it's miraculous how things got settled. And those are two large ones. Is that some pattern that you've seen before?
Yes, more and more we're seeing that. And typically, the format of the complaint strongly suggests that they are working with the timeshare relief company, and then that they're recommending, this is just part of the process and getting rid of that timeshare. I mean, they're almost identical. They all start off the same way. They all allege the same things, and the respondents are noting that in their answers as well. They're noting this looks like the result of a timeshare relief company, and I think that does encourage them a little bit to cancel the contracts.
Substantial money, $10,000 after the complaint was filed was settled. The other one was $10,500 plus an additional $15,000. That's a lot.
To the point for me where I'm surprised when they don't agree to cancel the contracts.
Thank you.
See, and your point, because I came away after reading these this time going, there may be a problem in the timeshare industry because everybody keeps saying the same things, but you may have explained why they're saying the same things. They're reading the same script.
And quick to pay some large monies back.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
All right, the motion carries unanimously. Let's go to number 21, please. And let's see, who
That was
took
me.
that one off?
That
Okay,
was me.
why don't you say what your question or issue
my,
was?
my question was, it was where it was new construction, and I believe it was the listing agent, and then they were the only agent in the transaction, if I'm not mistaken, and then they changed and became a facilitator in the transaction. And if you look, you're on the agency disclosure form, and they've marked facilitator. I'm assuming.
They did not provide, as far as I recall, they did not actually provide the agency disclosure form. They did provide documentation from when they first started interacting with the buyer, showing that they were recommending old construction or already established homes. And then, just through their conversations, they decided to go with a new construction. And then that individual wound up becoming the listing agent for the new construction, and that's when they defaulted to facilitator. It was clear from the text message records that I saw that this buyer understood the licensee to be a facilitator, so that's why I didn't get too caught up on that form. But they did not include the form in their response to the complaint.
And so are you sure that the buyer understood what a facilitator is?
I couldn't really speculate 100% what was their understanding, but again, based upon the text conversations that I saw, it appeared to me that they understood the licensee's role as facilitator.
So they understood that they were not being represented, actually?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
But I was like, so you're thinking the agent was working with the buyer first? I had it in my head that maybe this agent was a listing agent for the builder, but maybe the builder didn't have any he hadn't listed the property or anything, or.
That was my understanding. It looked pretty clear to me that they were working with the buyer first.
Okay.
I have a copy of the buyer representation agreement when they started first working with the buyer.
I can double check that. I'm not sure.
Or was there one? That was the question, I guess, because I know the default status is facilitator if there was not one.
I think there was, but I'll have to open up that case file and double check.
You can just look and see if there's any kind of buyer rep agreement or if there's any kind of confirmation of agency. I mean, we could go on to others and give her a few minutes to look at this. That would just kind of be that was my two things right there. I mean, they can say one thing. I just want to make sure that if they had something in writing that it matched.
Right. I know there was not a confirmation of agency because that's something I thought about, but it was not in there. Let me see.
Because the complaint is that they were unprofessional and unethical, and those two things are not really what we look at. I mean, that should have gone to an association, I would think, unless they didn't say that there was a law that had been broken.
They may not know what the law was.
I know. That's why I'm asking about the facilitator.
Want to, while Ms. Bridges looks at that, go on to Ms. Smith's portion of the consent agenda?
Sure.
Okay. Ms. Smith, I see that you have 27 through 51.
Yes.
Does anyone have any of the numbers 27 through 51 that they would like to take off the consent agenda? Mr. Grease.
I've got four of those, but three of them are the same question. Can a real estate firm sell timeshares, or do you have to have a timeshare license?
I have seen real estate firms that only have a firm license that are selling timeshares, and it's never been an issue or anything that I've thought about being an issue. So I assumed that a real estate firm can sell a timeshare, but I would have to look into it to give you a...
Only reason, there were three cases, 31, 40, and 41, that involved timeshares, but the respondent is a real estate firm, not a timeshare registration firm. And I've just... I'm sorry.
The definition of timeshare salesperson, maybe this answers it, 6213-102-15. Notwithstanding any law to the contrary, a licensed broker or affiliate broker is entitled to sell timeshare intervals pursuant to a registered timeshare program.
Okay, so I only have one to pull off, 36.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any others?
Yeah, let me just.
Ms. Hills?
I'm thinking 34. 34 and 35. And I had 36 also.
Okay. Any others in 27 through 51?
Is it possible that 41 and 46 are the same? They both start off with, this was only going to take 120 minutes. And then I read it, and they sure did look exactly the same. I didn't bother to look and see if the dates were the same as their licensees licensed.
Open dates are
Dates
the
are
same.
different.
License dates are the same.
Case numbers are different.
First license is different.
State firm was a timeshare.
6/30/1995.
All right, they're separate then. Never mind.
I will say that a lot of the complaints literally use very similar language, if not exact. So I'll try to make them or clarify that they're different going forward.
Or words not necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah, I can
All right.
I can change them.
That's fine.
I can change
That's
it up.
fine.
All right, so on 27 through 51, any others?
30, 36. Uh, 50 and 51. I think you already had 36.
Any others? I have 30, 34, 35, 36, 50, and 51.
That's good.
Okay, let's go ahead. Ms. Smith, if you don't mind reading in the numbers on 27 through 51, but don't read 30, 34, 35, 36, 50, or 51.
27, 2018-0155551. 28, 2018-0155581. 29, 2018-01461. 31. 2018-016271. 32, 2018-016541. 33, 2018-016601. 7, 2018-016951. 38, 2018-017531. 39, 2018-017601. 40, 2018-018591. 41, 2018-018711. 42, 2018-018861. 43, 2018-018921. 44, 2018-034411. 45, 2018-020861. 46, 2018-023281. 7, 2018-022841. 48, 2018-019201. 49, 2018-019411. And I think that would be it, right?
Okay.
Move to accept council's recommendation.
Second.
All right, all in favor of the motion vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed vote no. That motion carries unanimously. Let's go to number 30. Let's see, Mr. Okay, Mr. Woods.
30 was the one where they called themselves a real estate health care specialist, and in the summary at the top it talks about that it's a real estate firm, and one of their licenses was expired, and then they had 2 more that were active at other addresses. Do you recall what that's about? I was just having a little trouble following that.
Yes. You're talking about the 2 active licenses and the
Yes.
one that's expired. I honestly,
and these are all firm licenses, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know why they have 3 different ones, but I do know that the complaint was opened against the license that is expired because that was the address that the complainant gave us. So when the complaint division opened it, they just opened it under the firm that had that address. Probably didn't even realize there was more than one at that point. And then,
Is it the same company name the whole time, all 3 of them? I'm like, how did you match those together?
well, I wasn't. I was just told that there was 2 active licenses because I whenever I see something that's expired, I go and look and see, if it's still expired before the meeting. And then I was just told, well, there's 2 other active licenses. So I discussed whether or not we should put that on here, and it was decided not to. So I think maybe Amanda.
But is it the same name?
I
Is
think
it ABC on all of them?
they're slightly different names, but they're very similar. You would know that they're affiliated, if not, being the same, but maybe one's an LLC or one's, a different kind of entity. But Amanda said she thinks maybe they're in East, Middle, and West Tennessee.
But then,
I've never seen this before. I wouldn't know why you would need separate ones, even no matter how many offices
But you
have.
can. You can.
yeah, you can have. Do they have different brokers?
I can look into this and I'll look and get all the information I can gather, and then I'll have that for you when Amanda's done, because she's going to go before me. If that's okay,
fine.
we'll
That is
discuss
fine.
it.
That's fine.
Do you have any other questions about that one?
That was the big thing. I was just trying to figure out.
Yeah.
And then and that was my first thing. And then I think this basically the question was I think it was where the respondent they're being accused of basically going after a client after the client supposedly said, "I've already got a relationship," and so basically complainant saying one thing, respondent said another, and then. And you see a lot more than we do. But why did you believe the respondent rather than the complainant? Was kind of my thought.
This one, I had to read this one multiple times because it is very confusing. I have the text messages though, so that's what led me to my decision.
Okay.
I believe the person that needed an agent or didn't need an agent, we'll say a client, was texting with the respondent, and she brought up that she had an agent already, and then the respondent immediately stopped talking about anything having to do with being an agent. Does she need an agent? And talked about his skills with, I think, like design for dentist offices and stuff like that, and that was the extent of it. And then it turned out that the respondent knows the client's boss or something, and she got scared, so she went and told her agent. And that's why I think this was filed.
Okay.
Just to kind of cover.
Okay. Okay.
But I did not see anything in any way, shape, or form where the respondent was trying to get her to, use him, or they even knew that there was a relationship.
I'm fine with that. If we just get to the bottom of the licenses part.
Absolutely. I'll have that for you.
We'll go to the next one.
What about Ms. Hills? Did you have 34 and 35?
Yes.
What was your specific question there?
So, in reading it, it's not a lot. I just need to be sure I have my arms around it. So the complainant states that there's someone working there at the respondents that's not supposed to be working there,
Is
and filing under someone's Social Security number. But in number 35, we reached out to this somebody who's not supposed to be. So we reached out to them and asked them for a response.
Well, so in 34, I assume the person who filed this complaint may be the ex-employee of this timeshare firm, the mother to that person's child, and that person wasn't paying child support, so filed a complaint with us. That employee doesn't work there anymore, so we sent the complaint to the firm. They responded, and then we sent the complaint against the ex-employee to the firm address as well, because that's the only address we have. So they just sent the same response, and we have no way to contact. We don't even know that person's name, the ex-employee's name. And then
for unlicensed activity, we get the response back from the firm versus the person who was named.
Well, they weren't named.
They weren't named?
No, it was just there's a person working there that hasn't been paying child support and shouldn't be, selling timeshares. And then by the time we got the response, the employee hadn't been working there for a while. And so I definitely don't have any kind of proof of unlicensed activity. So that is why I wouldn't even know where to start to try to find out who this was.
They're
in jail. I do know that now. They are in jail. The complainant updated us that they got him, and
I just thought it was
person whose name we don't know, we know is in jail.
Because the complainant emailed me and told me, they just saying, "Oh, they got him."
Okay.
Or her. Got
he
him
or
her.
Yeah. Okay. I just thought it was odd that
It
unlicensed
is a very
activity
odd.
got answered by the respondent, not by the person who was supposed to have been doing unlicensed.
And we can absolutely
I'm
contact
okay
the
with it.
complainant and.
So are we ready to?
Mr. Chairman, following legal reading the case numbers into the record, I'd make a recommendation that we dismiss, or accept counsel's recommendation to dismiss.
A second.
Okay. Ms. Smith, do you mind reading in the numbers for 34 and 35?
34, 2018 016 901. 35, 2018 016 921.
All in favor of dismissal, vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, vote no. That motion carries unanimously.
And that was for 34 and 35?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
36, Chairman Grease.
So I might have to get Ms. Maxwell off that computer back there on this one. So as I read this case, it sounds like an advertising complaint came in, and we've authorized the executive director to be able to review that, and if the executive director sees what she sees as a clear violation, she can offer a consent agreement to
Agreed citation, right.
Agreed citation. In this case, when that agreed citation was offered, the licensee or respondent said, you're wrong. That's pretty much how I read it.
Right.
Legal reviewed it and agreed with the respondent that the executive director, well, forget the executive director, but that one-click rule was in effect and did apply here. Do I have this right?
That's exactly correct.
So I like to talk about the process more than anything else. I think that's how we want it to work. I thought everything other than, and if legal looks at it and goes, the executive director had a wrong interpretation or didn't see what we saw, and here's our opinion, I like that. So mine, pulling it off, is more to just comment about the process and how it worked well, in my opinion. Others had 36, but that was why I had it.
Ms. Hills, you had 36.
I did. So, and I think this is the one I remember, that since it was a group, Facebook clearly lists that it is a closed group for real estate agents only. That seemed to carry some weight somehow. But and I think this is the one that said, and if you clicked on, like if it's me, if you clicked on my thing, that takes you to the second page versus going to the second page.
Right. So if the respondent was obviously invited, accepted into this closed group, whenever she posts or he posts, you can click on that respondent's name, and it takes you directly to that respondent's profile, which lists all of the required information for social media advertising.
That's not how we can go to anybody's profile and see that I'm a licensee, but that's not my ad. That's the part that threw me a little bit about this.
So the ad would be, okay, here's a house at so-and-so and so-and-so.
And here's my...
And when you click on it, it should take you to my information if it weren't on that first page to begin with. So that somewhere the realty company and the phone number should be there. That's
Correct.
The one click
without
with.
going up to the profile
Right.
picture.
It's on. I thought it was on the posting, the advertisement.
Right to the left of the posting is the picture.
Oh, on the posting, not on the
So
top.
yeah, and every time the respondent posts, the respondent's picture is right next to it, so you can click on that respondent, and it takes you directly to the profile with all of the required information.
That's what I'm... that's not how I interpret it's supposed to be.
It's not when you click on their picture, it's when you click on the ad.
No, what the rule says is the firm name and telephone number listed with the commission must be no more than one click away from the viewable page, and then the link is right there on that page to click, and there's the name and the phone number.
Right.
But usually, how I interpret it is you click the ad. It's not that you click the profile to that person. Am I looking at it wrong?
I think you can do either or, and the respondent really did actually go into that. The respondent said that they chose to use the profile page as the source of all of the required information because they didn't want to have to type it every time they posted something on that group. Which I assume every time they posted it, they'd have to type it in if you clicked on the ad. So you can still click on the ad.
It won't show it, though. If you click on the ad, what I thought I was reading, if I clicked on that ad, it would just do that.
It takes you to some information. The problem is nobody can see it unless they're a part of that group. So I just have screenshots that the respondent provided.
Saw this ad. Could you tell us what you saw?
So without going back there and re-looking at it, my understanding was that it was supposed to be, the one click was supposed to be on the ad. And I would have, if I had looked at this, would have clicked on the ad to see if it had the requirements of the advertising. And so I don't recall that being there. I wouldn't have probably sent out a agreed citation if on the ad. But I can go back and relook at it and just refresh my own memory.
So just to be clear, this is a certain social media platform, and there is an advertisement on that platform, and I can click a link in order to view more information about that particular listing. And when I go to that, when I click that link and I go to maybe an internet page or something like that that's outside of the platform, and to see more information about this listing, does that internet page have the name and phone number of the firm on it?
I can go back and look. And Erica would have gotten additional information that I might not have gotten when it was first filed. But my practice would have been to review what was submitted and then click on the ad.
When you click the ad, does that take you outside of the social media platform into just an internet page that has lots of pictures and write-up about whatever this listing is?
I don't know because nobody can view it unless they're a part of that group.
So that was her problem too. She wasn't a member of that group,
and she didn't.
So how
she
could
didn't
she
get
click
it
on that and get to the next page?
She did not have that information. It was only provided once the respondent contested the agreed citation. So Caitlin wouldn't have had it anyways.
But did you get the actual full ad that you get by clicking this link in the group?
I just got a screenshot of the posts on that group, and then I got a screenshot of what you see when you click on the respondent, which is the required information.
But the respondent's point, to me, does not fit what I just heard Ms. Maxwell describe. So the respondent is telling us, since we can't see it, that all you have to do is hit my profile, and then you've got my information. But that's not how I interpret the ads are to be. You click the ad that takes you to the next step.
It doesn't say that.
In advertising.
It doesn't say to click the ad. It just says if it's one page away. I never thought about it the way
social media.
He said it.
It's very clear. It says must be no more than one click away from the viewable page under social media advertising.
The viewable page.
And so what if your social media post actually didn't include a click to some separate ad that provided more information? It was just like, I'm going to describe my property in 150 characters, and that's all there is. And so the only thing you could click on was the profile, and when you click on the profile, there's the
we're going
information.
to a lot of trouble for nothing in our advertising.
It's not for nothing.
I'm thinking the social media, that might be
Company policy always trumps.
different than internet advertising or general advertising. I think that wording is specific to the social media. I could be wrong, but
Okay.
Let me make sure I have clarification. So the real complaint is that the complainant is stating that the real problem is that when they saw the ad, they did not know if the person who posted the ad was an agent or not. Correct?
That's another allegation.
And the respondent is saying, yes, they should have known because this particular group is for agents only, and it's clearly for agents only. Is that what the respondent?
That was part of her argument, or the respondent's argument. But the main part of the respondent's argument was that yes, if you click, you would see that I am a licensed agent with this firm. And then additionally, the page states that it is a page only for the real estate industry.
Yeah, but that goes to who's the admin. You could not be a licensee.
Exactly.
You could be the admin and have your
Yeah,
own.
if that was the only
source of
argument,
information right there.
then I think that definitely would not be enough.
There seems to be a little bit of ambiguity with regard to the interpretation of the one-click rule, even by the commission here. So let me ask you this question. In your opinion, did the complainant have any trouble figuring out that this was an agent?
Well, the complainant, unless the complainant's a part of that group, then possibly, but the complainant is a licensee, and I truly believe the complainant knew that they were absolutely an agent.
Do you think that someone, well, would it have been open to the general public to take a look at it is one question, but would someone, just a public person who is a part of the general public, would they have had any problem determining that that was an agent who had listed that posting?
I don't think so.
Okay.
They'd have to be looking for real estate pages. They'd have to be a part of it. They couldn't even see it.
Get in.
You literally can't see it if you're not a part of it.
Mr. Wood, you also wanted 36 pulled out, I think, didn't you?
I think we beat the question good. My thing is, I'm not really hung up on where the one click is. Just as long as it's one click, and just as long as a person's not a secret agent, you can figure out they're a real estate agent, and I think they can figure this out. And so. I mean, I don't think a member of the general public's getting in this group unless the administrator accidentally lets them in.
Right.
So everybody knows it's an agent, and so
right.
I don't think. I think this. If anything, it may be a technicality, but it's not worth beating them up over.
Right. It might be worth considering, though, if what if it was on a public page and we got a complaint like this in the future? Would we treat it differently? Do we want to think about that? And just a thought.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to accept council's recommendation regarding item number 36.
All right. Ms. Smith, could you read the number for us, please?
I'm sorry, which number?
36.
Okay. 2018-016-621.
All right, all in favor of the motion, vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, vote no. Motion carries. Who had a question about number 50? Mr. Wood?
Me.
Okay.
I think this was the one where they were the agent. The complainant was a seller and was saying that they got down to the end and they're still trying to decide if they're going to close or not. But then in the second page it talks about, I think the real issue became that the house did not appraise for the sales price. And then my question was, did the seller agree to ever reduce the price? Because I never saw that mentioned until the second page about it, and it almost sounded like the seller was trying to decide if he was going to sell it or not right down to the end, and so that was my question. Did the seller ever agree to it?
The seller was very diligent in trying to sell this, even after the closing didn't happen. It was the buyer that wasn't sure the whole time up to the end.
Okay.
And the seller agreed to reduce the price after closing did not happen, after it was relisted on the market, and after the complainant contacted them and wanted to try again.
So the seller was, then they knew about the price reduction and they were okay with it.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
they brought that to the complainant, and the complainant, as far as I know, it wasn't never bought.
Okay, I'd like to make the motion we accept council's recommendation to dismiss.
Second.
And also for 51 also, 50 and 51.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Smith, could you read the numbers for 50 and 51, please?
50, 2018-021-741. 51, 2018-021-761.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. All right, Ms. Bridges, we're going to come back to you for number 21, and while we're talking to you, Ms. Smith, if you could look at number 30, so we could come back to you after we finish up these two. Okay.
So I looked through the case files for 21 and 22. We don't have any agency agreements. We have the purchase and sale agreement and then an addendum pushing back the closing date. But aside from that, we just have text messages and emails in terms of documentation.
I'd like to make a motion to accept council's recommendation, dismiss.
On 21 and 22?
Yes.
Second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Grease. Could you read those two numbers in? I don't think we've had those yet.
Sure. 21 is 2018-025291, and 22 is 2018-025311.
All right, all in favor vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed vote no.
No.
That motion carries 6-1. Ms. Smith, are you prepared to talk about number 30, or do you need some more time?
I have some information that I can provide, and then if you need more, then I would need more time. So the firm has 2 active licenses. Can you bring that page back? 2 active licenses with the exact same name. One refers to East Tennessee. I'm sorry, the exact same name other than East Tennessee is in the name of the firm, and then in the other one it's just Tennessee. The expired license is for a very different name, and that expired over a year ago, so of course there's no principal broker anymore attached to that. I guess it might be a question for Caitlin as to why the complaint was opened against the expired license or the expired firm license. So
could it have been that the licensee was at that location at one time? And this licensee we're talking about, is their license hanging with one that has a current firm license?
Is the complainant
the respondent?
The respondent is with the firm that's active. So I'm not really sure why.
But it said here, respondent has 2 additional firms licensed in Tennessee that are active, although the license associated with the address provided by complainant expired.
Right.
So the firm address?
Yes. The mailing address that came with the complaint, that the complainant just provided, that was the address that was, related to the expired firm license. But I feel like if they would have provided an address of one of the other 2 active, then it would have been opened against one of the active licenses. Caitlin, do you have any input on that?
So from my quick review of the complaint, what was mentioned was just the name of said firm. And I'm assuming our complaints division just opened it up based on that. So, for example, it would be like Maxwell Realty, and then there being Maxwell Realty East, Maxwell Realty West. All that was mentioned in the complaint was Maxwell Realty, so it wasn't specific. The firm that is not active does not have any agents with it and does not have a principal broker. So
it doesn't have a firm license then anymore for that one?
It's expired. There's nobody associated with it. There's no agents with it. I would potentially assume that the complainant just listed the name and wasn't specific. Therefore, our complaint division just opened it on the generic name listed. So
was there was a licensee involved somewhere? Or ever
so
mentioned?
Erica would be able to probably speak to that better because she reviewed all the documentation back and forth.
Was there a licensee ever mentioned, and then where is that licensee located?
Oh, the second paragraph says complainant alleges the client has an exclusive buyer's tenant representation agreement with their office. So that agreement,
the complainant's.
So that agreement shows what address?
It was the complainant.
That's the complainant.
It's
not
the
the
complainant.
respondent.
It's their, the complainant
okay.
had the
That's right.
agreement with the.
And the complainant does not refer to anyone specifically. And I just looked at the complaint, and the address they provided for the respondent just happened to be the one that was associated with the expired license.
And you got to remember they live in Colorado.
And the respondent has offices in Georgia, so the complainant provided an address in Roswell, Georgia, and the active licenses are still in Roswell, Georgia. They're just a different street address.
I'd like to move to accept council's recommendation.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Smith, could you read the number, please?
2018-015731.
All in favor of the motion, vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, vote no. The motion carries unanimously. All right, let's go to the legal report now.
I have one quick question.
Yes, Anna.
For the vote on number 21 and 22, it was 6-1. Could you clarify who was the one no?
Mr. Wood.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Bloom, you have a question?
Yes, for Anna and Denard. If, when we open a complaint and we find out that it's way beyond the period of time that we can consider the complaint, but when we open a complaint, we find out someone is doing something illegally, we just dismiss the complaint. Is it possible that the commission could then institute a request for maybe an audit or some review of that person to see if they're still doing something illegal? Or is it the fact that the complainant complained one thing that was beyond our time, so it's just dismissed, period?
I would say if the actions are taking place currently and within our statute of limitations, that would be something that we could definitely look into. But if it was something prior to the 2 years, I don't believe that is something that is within our purview.
Wouldn't know if it's current because we just dismissed it as beyond our 2 years.
What I think I'm getting from, if we get a complaint, we look at it, we say, oh, okay, it's beyond the 2 year statute of limitations. But looking into that, there's maybe some ongoing activity that is still actionable. Because the department is driven by complaints, we would look at the information that we have, and then we would have to typically what would happen is we would investigate as much as we could, and we would have to reach out to either administratively or in a situation where the board looked at it, saw something, and we could, on your request, open a new complaint and look at the current thing as well.
Second issue is really only the thing we can do, because when our legal counsel looked at it, they just dismissed it because it's beyond 2 years. But it was illegal activity. So my question is, in 2018, can this commission do something about that? Even though the complaint that was registered was done in 2008.
Well, I would think legal could, if they see something that is a violation of rule or statute, could come to us and ask us to open up a complaint. Although I think in the past, legal has opened complaints on their own at certain events.
In number 6, we didn't do anything except dismiss it.
And if I could chime in, I thought you might be talking about number 6. With that one, I did speak with Caitlin about it, and I think what our plan was going to be was notify the complainant that we have to dismiss this based upon the statute of limitations. However, if they have any other evidence of ongoing violations, they are welcome to submit another complaint to us, and that could prompt, a deeper investigation.
I just didn't want that laying fire there, because it sounded to me like they might still be doing that, and
Right.
we're doing nothing about it.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the statute of limitations won't let us
I know that,
proceed
but
on it,
then
so.
It's still ongoing. Okay, thank you. I'm happy with that.
All right, turning to the legal report now. Ms. Ryan, I see that you have number 1 and number 2, which are updates. And number 1, actually, nothing has changed. There was a $1,000 consent order for
Paid civil
unlicensed
penalty, that's
activity,
correct.
which was paid. Number 2 was a $1,000 consent order for unlicensed activity, which was not paid. You want to update us from there?
Yes, actually, number 1 and number 2 are the same individual. Number 1 had the activity was exactly the same. Having said all that, it's been our past history that we open up separate complaints, and in this, numbers weren't similar, so they weren't banded together. So number 1 did pay. Number 2 did not, so it was set for formal hearing. And at that formal hearing, number 2 appeared. Number 2 said, well, I thought that because I had paid, but more importantly, that number 2 not only had paid for the same activity, the $1,000, number 2 also is in taking real estate license classes at this point in time, is studying to become a licensee, and there has been absolutely no activity at all since 2000. That's based on my own research as well on both parties. Nothing has been going on. So the issue was resolved in number 1. So I am asking you all to accept what she signed at the hearing order for that individual to pay an additional $500 instead of an additional $1,000 because number 1, the $1,000 was paid immediately under the other name, and number 2, this person is taking classes, and number 3, the person came to the hearing because they're concerned and they want to be a real estate license.
But it's the same complaint, same violation,
Violations, but they were open.
and they've already paid $1,000
That's
for
correct.
that? So why do we want to charge them $500 more?
Well, because if you want to dismiss it, you will find no offense or objection on my part.
I just want to understand what,
Because you all had determined initially the $1,000 for the one entity and $1,000 for the other. So in trying to honor your wishes as well as trying to recognize all the circumstances that surround when to issue a civil. I suggested the $500, to which was agreed.
And so you've negotiated this out, and they've agreed to this? Yes. Okay.
Oh, okay. Motion to accept council's
Second.
recommendation.
Second.
Do we need to have that number for number 2?
Yes, I would be happy to read that. It's 2017-065631.
All in favor of the motion, vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, vote no. That motion carries unanimously. Thank
I will
you.
tell you, I apologize if there is no hearing tomorrow, but we have to witness that.
Okay, we'll look forward to that. Thank you. You're dismissed, Ms. Ryan. Mr. Mickens, you have one for us, number 3. Is that right?
That's right. I didn't want everybody else to have all
Welcome.
the fun. Thank you.
You got the whole legal department down here. I mean, you guys are billing this per hour. Look at this.
You want to?
That's just rhetorical.
It's fair. So number 3, 2018-04-141, and in this complaint, the complainant is a real estate professional. Respondent is a full-service commercial real estate firm. The complainant submitted evidence showing that respondent, through a subsidiary, was offering over 30 apartments as nightly rentals at a specific Nashville address. In support of their complaint, the complainant submitted an internet web address posted by a respondent's subsidiary that listed multiple locations for short-term rental. Complainant also alleged that respondent had filed multiple applications with Metro Nashville codes for permits to turn 38 apartments into non-owner occupied short-term rental properties, or STRPs. Council has verified via the Nashville Planning Department's website the issuance of multiple non-owner occupied STRP permits to respondent at the previously specified Nashville address. In response, respondent, through legal counsel, averred that they did not think they were required to have a vacation lodging service VLS license, but that out of an abundance of caution, respondent was going to submit an application. The TREC board staff has received that application for a VLS license from the respondent, and that license is currently being processed. In light of the information received, as well as respondent's response, it is clear that respondent was in violation of TCA 6213-104B2 for engaging in unlicensed activity. Respondent did not and does not fall into any of the statutory exemptions embedded in TCA 6213-104A1, especially considering that STRP permits, the permits that it holds with Metro Nashville, are explicitly for non-owner occupied parcels, and the posted advertisements contemplate managing the real estate parcels for compensation. Mitigating factors include that there is no evidence in the record of consumer harm, that respondent has been a licensed Tennessee real estate firm since 1988 with no complaints, and that respondent acted quickly to rectify the situation once a complaint was presented to them. My recommendation was for a $500 civil penalty for unlicensed activity, but I leave that to your discretion.
This is about the first time you've presented a case in front of us. Can you tell me the type of license we're talking about here? Is it a firm license, or it's not anything at this point? It's strictly unlicensed activity.
Right. Well, so the parent company, the subsidiary that posted the advertisements and collects the money, is not licensed at all. It's not a licensed entity. They have a parent company that is a licensed real estate firm, and that firm has been licensed with us since 1988.
Thank you.
So is it like a VRBO or something like that?
Yes, ma'am. It is. They're posting ads for Airbnb, basically.
So if the advertisements had been done in the parent's name and the parent company that is a licensed firm had been collecting the money, would we have a problem?
Well, my reading of the statute would be that we probably would still have a problem, because in the exemptions listed where you don't require VLS, there are 6 statutory exemptions for where the VLS chapter does not apply to those folks, and that doesn't seem my understanding of this corporate structure that they fall into any of these exemptions.
So earlier, Mr. Grease asked a question about can a real estate firm or but a real estate firm can't sell VLS.
Short-term rentals.
Short-term rental.
Well, if you remember, I think you found the statutory language. I mean, by statute, firms are allowed to sell timeshares. There's no statute covering. I mean, it's still new, and I guess it's a little bit of a bleeding edge case, so to speak. And there is no statute that allows that. When you look at the definition of broker, they do talk about rent and those kinds of things, but the VLS specifically talks about renting parcels that are 14 days or less. These advertisements definitely contemplate doing that. Now, it is up to the board. The board can interpret its own rules and statutes, but there is no statute or rule that would carve out that exception. I would also just add that we have many more of these kinds of complaints kind of in the pipeline, so this might be an issue that comes up a lot.
Well, in this one, the actual company that was doing the renting and the advertising wasn't a licensed firm.
No.
It was a subsidiary of a licensed firm, so
yes,
we don't even really get to that next question. Talking.
Right.
Okay.
Move to accept council's recommendation.
Second.
All right. Motion by Mr. Grease, seconded by Ms. Franks to accept the recommendation.
Just to make sure I got the line to know where you go from, say, a regular real estate agent can handle this to a vacation lodging service was that 14 days. Well, if you're renting less than 14 days at a time.
I mean, that's like I said, the board can interpret its own statutes, but my reading of the statute is that there is a real question after 14 days, but before you do a month-to-month or a rental agreement, there is sort of a gray area as well. But the VLS statute says that you offer for rent for 14 days or less.
Okay. I just never really thought about that, to be honest. So
I was hoping that was something we didn't have to worry about.
I don't think we actually have to answer that today.
Okay.
Because that's not the exact situation we're dealing with. Right. We're dealing with a clearly unlicensed firm, right?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Mickens. Thanks. All right, Ms. Bridges, are you ready for number 4?
I am. Number 4 is 2018-016171.
Could I ask counsel to go to the last sentence of her narrative, see if that influences anything?
The last sentence?
Yes. Last paragraph will work then.
Last paragraph.
Let's do the last paragraph.
Okay. After reviewing the extensive documentation and legal authority cited by respondent, counsel agrees that respondent committed no violations and recommends this matter be dismissed. Alternatively, counsel recommends this matter go into litigation monitoring until the civil action brought by complainant is resolved. Counsel also recommends this matter be referred to the board for licensing home inspectors. And again, my recommendation is dismissal.
Agrees.
Oh, that's why I was confused. Do you also recommend we send this to home inspectors?
Yes.
So that's part of your recommendation as well?
Yes, I don't know if a referral is part of a formal recommendation or if it's really just us shooting an email to somebody. Sometimes it works that way. Sometimes it comes from Caitlin. It may be more official. So I guess technically my recommendation is a referral and a dismissal.
And if we monitor the litigation, what might we find?
I mean, we would really just wait and see if anybody is found guilty of hiding these disclosures or violating the disclosure rules.
Isn't that a reason not to dismiss and just monitor the litigation?
Based upon my review of the record, I would be surprised if any of the licensees in this situation were found guilty of violating disclosure rules. However, it is a possibility. I believe in this situation, the case was, or no, excuse me. I have 2 separate cases where there's a litigation pending, and I think I'm thinking of the other one. In this situation, we can wait and see what the civil court rules. I don't think there are any violations, but it's up to the commission.
But if we dismiss it, do we have the right to bring the charges back again when we've dismissed it in the first place?
No.
Okay, so we either need to litigate monitor the litigation that's going on in the civil court and not do anything, because if we dismiss and then we find out there was some wrongdoing in the civil court, we've already dismissed it. So it would be my motion that that we place this matter into litigation monitoring until the civil action brought by the complainant is resolved.
Second.
Motion by
And
Ms.
still
Frank,
refer.
Seconded by Mr. Grease. Ms. Hills.
And to refer to the Board of Licensing.
Yes, and to refer it to
Okay.
the Board of Licensing Home Inspectors, yes,
That
sorry.
was part of the motion. All right, any additional discussion?
But I think
Mr. Wood?
coming from Miss Bridget, I mean, I think she said there was nothing here, that she found no violation of the agent. And
But
by-
we either monitor it or dismiss it.
That's right.
I don't see us doing both things.
Well, I agree, and that's why I'm thinking more dismissal. I mean, if we didn't find anything, and there's been nothing presented, then why do we want to just keep
Because
it hanging
she's
around?
recommending that we put it in litigation monitoring.
No, the recommendation was dismissal, wasn't it?
No, she recommended both things. That's what I'm saying, we gotta do one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, the litigation monitoring would be an alternative to dismissal. I am inclined to lean towards dismissal. I really don't think there's anything here. However, it depends on what comes up in the civil case.
But like, earlier there was a lot of cases at this time about timeshare. There seem to be a lot of cases this time where they're trying to hold the agent responsible for the seller's things the seller either said or did not say.
I agree.
And there's nothing here that says the agent knew anything about it. So why do we want to keep it hanging on? I mean,
I agree, and more likely than not, if this does proceed in civil litigation, it's not necessarily a given that they're even going to be proceeding under the Tennessee Broker Licensing Act. There could be plenty of different causes of action that don't fall under our jurisdiction.
I'd like to try to amend the motion that we actually dismiss this and not send it on to the home inspectors or anything, but just to dismiss this case.
All right, we've got a substitute motion to dismiss. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, Mr. Bloom has seconded the substitute motion. Okay, any additional discussion? We're now going to vote on dismissal as the first alternative. Any discussion about that? All right, let's get ready to vote. You'll vote yes if you think we should dismiss it instead of doing litigation monitoring and referring it to the home licensing. And if that fails, we'll come back and we'll vote on the motion for the litigation monitoring. Okay? So you're going to vote yes if you want to go and just dismiss it now and be done with it. All in favor of dismissal, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, vote no.
No.
I'm a no.
You're a no? Yeah. Here, the ayes have it 4-3 with Ms. Hills, Ms. Franks, and Mr. Green. That one is dismissed. Number 5.
Number 5 is 2018-018961. This complaint is against a principal broker for failure to supervise. The commission voted to dismiss the related complaint against the affiliate broker last month. Complainant is a listing agent. Complainant alleges the affiliate broker knowingly entered into their client's home without authorization on March 16, 2018. In their answer to the complaint, the affiliate broker stated they contacted the showing desk to request a showing for the subject property on March 16th. The affiliate broker stated they were told they could show the property at 4 p.m., but they did not receive any further instructions. The affiliate broker entered the property at 4 p.m. The alarm went off. They immediately called the showing desk to deactivate it, reset the code, and left the premises. And I should add, respondent did not submit an answer to this complaint. Counsel believes it is likely that this matter would have been dismissed had respondent answered the complaint, but nevertheless recommends discipline be imposed for the violation of Tennessee Code Annotated 6213.313A2, which requires the licensee to file their answer to a complaint within 10 days of receipt. The record shows that notice of the complaint was delivered to respondent's office on March 28, 2018, and my recommendation is for a $250 civil penalty.
I move to accept council's recommendation.
Is that for failure to respond?
Yes.
A motion by Mr. Wood for a $250 civil penalty. Is there a second? That motion fails for lack of a second. Is there another motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we give a civil penalty of $1,000 for failure to respond.
Motion by Ms. Franks, seconded by Ms. Hills for a $1,000 civil penalty for failure to respond. Discussion?
I think that's what we've always done in the past, is why I said that number.
Just my thought on it was we actually dismissed the one to the affiliate. I mean, and so the civil penalty is for just not responding, right? And so that was just kind of my thought. It was a little bit lesser maybe because they didn't, they would have got out of it anyway if they would bothered to fill out the paperwork. But
And I gave it more weight because it was a principal broker.
Okay, I understand.
Okay, any additional discussion? Let's vote. All in favor vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed vote no.
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 That motion carries 5-2 with Mr. Douglas and Mr. Wood voting no. Number 6, please.
Number 6 is 2018-024391. Complainant is a home buyer and respondent is a listing
Get to
agent.
the recommendation, please.
Oh, sure. The recommendation is for litigation monitoring. Yes.
Move to accept council's recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Franks, seconded by Ms. Hills to accept the recommendation. Mr. Grease.
Only question, Kelsey. Last sentence says, and that this will be represented upon receipt of respondent's full answer to the complaint,
Yes.
which is not litigation monitoring, is it?
Their answer to the complaint essentially said, we're asking the commission hold this in abeyance until a full resolution is met in the civil litigation, and they did say they would submit a full answer at that time.
All right, let's vote.
All in favor vote aye. Aye. Opposed vote no. That motion carries unanimously. Number 7, please.
Number 7 is 2018-024411.
Move to accept council's recommendation.
Second.
Litigation
Motion by
monitoring.
Ms. Franks, seconded by Mr. Wood for litigation monitoring. All in favor vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed vote no. That one carries unanimously. Number 8, please.
All right, number 8 is 2018-024491. Complainant is a homeowner currently in the middle of divorce proceedings. Respondent is complainant's spouse's real estate agent and former employer. Complainant's spouse is also a licensee but was not acting in the capacity of a broker at the time of this complaint. Complainant alleges that respondent listed complainant's property co-owned with their spouse on MLS without complainant's verbal or written authorization. Complainant provided a copy of a court-ordered injunction dated April 10, 2018, barring either spouse from disposing of any marital property without the consent of the other prior to entry of the party's divorce decree. Respondent states that it was their understanding that a listing agreement only has to be signed by one owner of a jointly held property, whereas a purchase and sale agreement must be signed by all owners. At the time of the events in the complaint, complainant's spouse was working as a listing manager / director of operations at respondent's firm. Respondent was aware that their employee was going through a contentious divorce and states that an emergency order of protection was filed against complainant. Respondent states they were also aware of the financial burdens the divorce imposed on their employee. Together, respondent and their employee / complainant spouse determined that the only way the couple would be able to sell the house without spending a significant amount would be if respondent's firm listed the property and respondent agreed to forego their commission. Respondent believed that the order of protection prevented the spouses from communicating with each other through their agents, so respondent did not consult with complainant prior to listing the property. Respondent states their employee was in possession of the property and that they were listed on the deed and mortgage. Acting in their capacity as the firm's listing manager, the employee / complainant spouse put the home on MLS and began processing the paperwork in the firm's normal fashion. Respondent states the property was listed on MLS on April 12th and removed immediately upon learning of complainant's objection on the 17th. Council would like to reserve her recommendation until such time as the Commission has had an opportunity to discuss on the record the issue raised in this complaint. Specifically, Council requests the Commission's guidance on determining whether the execution of a listing agreement establishes a transaction, as that term is used in Tennessee Code annotated 6213-403, thereby creating for respondent a duty owed to complainant to exercise reasonable skill and care. Council notes that the terms of the listing agreement establish an agency relationship between respondent and complainant spouse alone. Council also notes that if the efforts of respondent lead to an offer, no sale could occur absent complainant's authorization and signature on the purchase and sale agreement. If the actions of respondent and complainant's spouse created a real estate transaction to which complainant is a party, then respondent's listing of the property absent complainant's authorization would be a violation of Tennessee Code annotated 6213-403. However, if the listing agreement did no more than establish an agency agreement between respondent and complainant spouse, council sees no violation of Section 403, and I recommend a discussion.
Well, the listing agreement does not create an agency agreement.
Could you elaborate on that?
The only thing that creates an agency agreement is a bilateral agreement between the buyer and the agent, or the seller and the agent. And they'd have, I'm assuming that this property is in the name of both people. It would require both signatures.
Was this TAR forms?
They were TAR forms, and the reason I believe that the listing agreement creates an agency relationship is based upon 6213-401, which states that the negotiation and execution of either an exclusive agency listing agreement or an exclusive right to sell listing agreement with a prospective seller shall establish an agency relationship.
Did they have both signatures of the people who own the property, or just one signature?
No, they only have the complainant's spouse's signature on the listing agreement.
They don't have both signatures of the owner of the property, so there's no agency agreement.
I would say they created an agency relationship with apparently the husband, one of them, but not the other.
But it looks like
Yes.
the definition we need is the definition to transaction.
Which we do not have in the statute.
It's defined in 6213-102-16.
So do you look at a...
Maybe we do have it.
Say that again?
6213-102-16.
Okay, yes.
I don't know how helpful it is, but it says transaction means purchase, sale, rental, or option of an interest in real estate or business opportunity. I think there's still some vagueness in 6213-403, where it says a licensee who provides real estate services in a real estate transaction shall owe all duties to the transaction the following duties. And your question was, do those duties only arise if the transaction closes, right?
More or less, yes. When does
And-
the transaction occur?
Yeah, and
Well, do you look at a listing as a contract? Would it hold up in a court, a listing, with only one signature on it?
well, I don't know if the listing agreement falls within the definition of transaction, because transaction is defined as the purchase, sale, rental, or option of an interest in real estate.
So what's an option? It would not be a listing then. You're right.
Yeah,
I got
yeah,
you.
I don't think, but
Gotcha.
but if you're providing real estate services in a real estate transaction, does that mean you're providing services before the transaction actually closes? It seems like you probably are.
Go online and you look, there are varying opinions by attorneys as to whether both owners have to sign a listing agreement. And probably the majority of them say that they do not. To list a property, to close a property, obviously you're going to have signatures, all signatories, are owners. So this is something that I've looked at in detail. I'm not putting myself out as an expert, but I'm just saying there is ambiguity there. There are a lot of varying opinions, and I don't know what I'd like to hear, specifically what our legal counsel would say. Do both parties have to sign the listing agreement?
We had a lot of conversation about it ourselves, and there is a lot of disagreement.
I'd say if you want it to be valid, you need to have
Yeah, I don't
all
want
the
my
owners.
husband binding me to something that I'm
Yeah.
not agreeable to.
Yeah.
And it's my name's on the deed.
So it may be
Is it
the
a
case-
transaction until it goes to closing, though?
It may be the case that it can go and keep going unless one of the parties disagrees, and then you have nothing.
Well, when there's a divorce, you need to see the
Yeah.
paperwork from the court,
Mm-hmm.
so you'll know. There's no other way of knowing.
That was something Kelsey and I discussed. Is it, even if it is a problem, is it really the respondent's problem? Like how
their
liable is the
responsibility?
respondent? How far do they have to dig to find out who needs to sign a listing agreement when their client is an agent themselves?
When you've got a divorce,
So that's what.
you got to be more careful.
Say who
for sure
owns
on
it.
something like that.
He knew what he was doing,
Yeah,
and his
exactly.
interpretation of the rule fits what he did. I mean, he knew that it was going to be a difficult time to get both signatures on it. That's why he just went ahead and listed it.
It's easier to get forgiven than to get permission.
I mean, he was going to have to go through some steps. Probably a judge was going to make somebody sign it, and he just didn't want to do that and moved on. And I think that's a problem.
So as long as you know of a divorce, but if you know nothing of
somebody
any
could lie to you.
problems, then
I mean, you think about it, I could walk into a house that's a rental property, and the people could say, I say, "Oh, are you the Smiths?" "Yeah, we're the Smiths." You have, because I usually don't say, "Let me see your ID before I list your
Right.
house," but the title company sure asks for it at closing. I mean, but at some point when I have a feeling that there's a problem or there's something going on, I mean, when I look and there's two people's names on the deed and or on the tax record even, and then there's only one, and he goes, "Oh, well, I'm going through a divorce," then I need to back up and I make sure I get everybody on this agreement.
Even if it's a trust account, you may have to have 10 signatures.
So the respondent definitely has a duty to do at least look at the deed before signing a listing agreement.
Doesn't have to be the deed.
Or
I mean,
something to
just
let
something.
you know.
I mean, he knew there was a problem, and he kept going forward anyway.
I would still like to have a more definite answer
Now,
on.
what do the lawyers say?
Do all owners have to sign a listing agreement? Yes, I know they would have to sign the purchase and sale agreement for this thing to go to closing, but can only one owner list a property for sale?
It is. I want to say it's my opinion that only one owner has to sign, but of course there could be no sale without every single interested party's signature. I believe Denard has a different opinion on this.
As Anna and I, it's kind of fitting we're sitting on this side of the table, I guess. But we've had a lot of internal discussion about this case in particular. In this particular instance, I think that because of the knowledge of this person, I think that person had a duty to get those signatures. I mean, like, I don't think there's anything around it. Now, if you're getting to in a vacuum, do all parties have to have the signature? I guess there might be some ambiguity, but I guess my question, I've worked in a lot of different contexts. I've worked, I couldn't imagine a professional putting all the time, effort, and energy into listing the house and doing all the things you have to do to get that house ready for sale, all of the things you have to do, and then at the end of all of that, go, "Okay, I got a buyer," and they go, "No, I'm not," like, because you
I'm
never
not
asked
selling.
me. Like, as a profession, I just don't know how that would benefit anyone to go through all of those steps and all of that rigmarole, and then at the end of that go, "Oh yeah, I was just kidding. That was just an exercise in futility."
And if there's two spouses who are on the deed, how do you pick which spouse you're going to let sign that listing? I mean, you're going to have a ton of problems when that happens, and especially if they're in a divorce.
And especially if each spouse signs a separate listing agreement with a different
Exactly.
person.
The answer of prudence does not answer the question of a legal requirement.
Right.
Do you know if they did they also put a sign out in the yard, or was it only
No.
listed on MLS?
It was only listed
Only
on
5
MLS.
days.
Let's see, it was being offered out to the unsuspected
Then the
buyer's agent and
spouse
saying
would've
this
seen
is
it.
what the commission
So within
would be.
5 days, that spouse saw it
Yeah.
and said, "No, no, 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 we're not doing that."
Right.
So that's exactly what happened. There you
Okay,
go.
I'll try to tie this up. How about, let's try this. I'd like to make a motion that we have a $1,000 civil penalty against the respondent for not exercising reasonable skill and care.
Second.
Can I ask a question about that, though? I guess my concern is to whom did they owe that duty to exercise reasonable skill and care? Did they owe that to the complainant? Because the way I see it, the complainant's not a party to a transaction.
Else they would have been a party to the transaction. You couldn't have sold it without getting.
That's true, but it never.
And I think the
got to that
agent
point.
knew that
There
the
was no-
complainant should have been a party to it, but chose not to include him in it.
I believe in this specific situation, yes, the respondent was very much aware of the divorce. Now, they said in their answer they were trying to do something good. They were trying to help alleviate some of these burdens, and they thought, if I can just bring the two of them a good offer, then that's going to get this whole house situation resolved. It never made it to that point.
And then again, it's also a principal broker. It's a principal broker. I mean, as a principal broker, if one of my agents were to ask me this, I would say it's better to be sure than not. I would have picked up the phone and called our attorney and find out what they would say. This did happen at my company several years ago, and the advice my attorney gave me was get both signatures because you don't know how this divorce is going to unfold. This one's going to sue you because you didn't get it, you know. And so what I did was the man had said that he had the agreement. I mean, the judge had ordered it. I said, bring me the order, and he never was able to provide it. And so we were like, no.
I will agree. I think we could all agree. Better safe than sorry. You know, if you know there are two owners, get both owners' signatures on the listing agreement. But I'm still not sure better safe than sorry. What violation is that in this situation?
Well, didn't you give him the number? Yeah.
It's
skill and care.
Yeah.
Skill and care. Would you say they didn't exercise reasonable skill and care in terms? Towards their client, because the complainant is not their client.
That's a duty of all parties.
So does that answer the first question then? That we think there has been a transaction established.
I think maybe they were providing real estate services in a real estate transaction.
Okay.
Or at the very least, they were representing that they had the right to sell a piece of property and somebody had a reasonable expectation they could buy it. And that wasn't the case if one of the sellers was adamant about selling it.
Years ago, I had a deal where every time I'd go to talk to the sellers about selling the home, she would never be there. He was always there. And then when I went to list, and then I left the listing agreement, and then I came back a day or so later, she wasn't there again, but it was signed, and he wouldn't let me put a sign in the yard. And so, and so all that smelled bad. And I knew that my next door neighbor was friends of hers, and I called her and I said, will you please ask her if she knows I'm selling her house? And she called me back and says, yes, she does. And I said, okay. I mean, that was reasonable skill and care.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that clears
Call for the vote.
Things up.
So let's see, who made the motion?
I did.
And I seconded it.
Okay. Wood's motion and Frank's second. $1,000 civil penalty.
Okay.
Is everybody okay? Let's vote. All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, vote no.
No.
6 yes, 1 no from Mr. Douglas. That motion carries.
Can I ask one question
Smith,
about that?
Yes.
Just in the future, if this were to happen, since the complainant's spouse is a licensee, is there any kind of violation on their part by allowing this to happen, being a licensee?
Listing their own home.
Without having their spouse sign it?
One who signed the listing agreement is a licensee?
Yes. And that's actually the individual that put it on MLS.
A complaint was filed against that person.
Right, that's why I was asking, just for future reference.
Could be an ethical question that could go to the association, more than one for Trek, I would think.
Or contempt, because I read that there was a court order that said you can't put it up for sale unless both approve, right? And so I think.
Or misleading.
All right. That was number 8, right?
Yes.
Ms. Bridges, number 9.
This one's a represent. Would you like me to just go to the new information?
Read the number first and then go to the new information.
All right, number 9 is 2018-006051. And here's our new information. Respondent contacted counsel upon receipt of the proposed consent order. Respondent states that both they and the affiliate broker did everything they could to correct the error as promptly as possible, and reiterates that the Tennessee Association of Realtors recommends relying on tax records when determining square footage for a listing. Respondent provided counsel with the following language taken from the TAR website. It is recommended that realtors, 1, list square footage as approximate and add a disclaimer noting that the amount is not guaranteed, and 2, Either list the square footage as it is on the tax records or as calculated by an appraiser and indicate the source. Be sure the source is located where the public will see it. Council verified that this language appears on the TAR website on at least 3 separate pages. Respondent also provided a copy of the original MLS listing. Under room totals and square footage, the listing states 1,835 square feet / tax record, or per the tax record. Further, it includes the following disclaimer. Information believed to be accurate but not guaranteed. Buyers should independently verify all information prior to submitting any offer to purchase. Based upon a review of the information supplied by respondent, council does not believe the principal broker failed to supervise the actions of their affiliate broker by recommending and or allowing the affiliate broker's use of the county's tax records in determining the property's square footage. Council recommends this matter be dismissed.
Move to dismiss.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Franks, seconded by Ms. Hills to dismiss. Discussion?
Yes.
Mr.
I was, I think I saw, I was out last month, the good things came up, and so I actually watched y'all's meeting on the YouTube, and so I was quite glad this came up, actually. I went and found this. I found this up, found it on TAR. First, I want to give my smart aleck remark. And I get reminded of this all the time because I'll say, well, TAR this. We're not TAR.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay, just because now I'm a good card-carrying member, but just because TAR says something, we're not TAR. Okay, that's my smart aleck remark. Okay, now let me find this. No, you wouldn't be smart aleck.
I know.
I'm in a freaking grumpy mood. I got these things cut off of me. Okay, so. Ibuprofen is kicked out. So, but here I found it on their website, and what it said on their website. This was actually a response to the legal hotline. Somebody asked a question. What do you say? And this was put in the newsletter. But the first part of that comment says this. It says calculating square footage. Square footage or gross living area is difficult to determine and is ripe for a misrepresentation claim. If you ask 3 different people to determine square footage on a property, you'll probably get 3 different answers. If the number included in the MLS is incorrect, the realtor could be liable for negligent misrepresentation depending on what he or she did to verify the information. And when the discrepancy is discovered, for example, before contract is ended or after closing, it is recommended that realtors, and then this is the part that's copied here, list square footage as approximate and add as a disclaimer, noting that the amount is not guaranteed, and 2, either list the square footage as it is in the tax records or as calculated by an appraiser and indicate the source. Be sure the source is located where the public can see it. So my point being this, if they don't have any other information, just using the tax record is fine. But when they had another professional come and measure it and they give them a different number, I don't think they just get to pick which one they want to use. I think they need to re-verify it again with a third source to get the answer.
In this situation, the affiliate broker initially relied on the tax records, and then the buyer, or who was to be the buyer, they requested somebody from the assessor's office come over and remeasure the property. They did, and that's when the buyer's agent reported the discrepancy to the respondent. At that time, the respondent affiliate broker asked, well, who came out and measured it? I can't just go off of what you say. They never verified who that individual was. They only sent over their notification that they were terminating the purchase and sale agreement. After that, the affiliate broker contacted the assessor's office themselves, then had somebody come back out again, and once they were able to confirm with the tax assessors, with their representatives' findings, that's when they changed the MLS.
But the tax assessors don't typically even enter the home.
I couldn't tell you exactly what they did, but they had somebody come out and measure it.
Well, an appraisal is outside brick to outside brick.
Right.
So you don't need to go in the home.
Right, so it could be more square footage. It could be different. Used to, we always put in plus or minus, and that's how.
Well, Just generally speaking, I think a real estate professional ought to be able to feel that a house is 30% larger or smaller than what they're
You're
saying.
right.
And that's why I did not recommend the affiliate broker's complaint for representation. I agree with you there that there's a big difference between 18 and 1,200 square feet that a professional should probably be able to recognize.
Or feel it.
Or feel. But I did want to bring back the principal broker's complaint, because in the absence of a rule or a statute from TREC establishing how square footage should be determined, I couldn't say that relying on the Tennessee Association of Realtors recommendation would be a failure to supervise. I guess my question would be, where are they supposed to go absent a rule or statute from TREC?
I go back. This is another reasonable skill and care. I mean, they had a gut feeling that house was not 1,800 square feet. I mean, I'm with John. You just got a gut feeling. I can't tell you if it's 1836 or 1790, but I'm decent enough. I can, I don't miss by a third.
But it has that disclaimer.
It don't matter. I mean,
I know.
That
really
that
does.
helps
For
liars.
It does
example,
legally.
So you see on the county records, and it's a Cape Cod or story and a half, and the county shows 1,000 square feet on the main and 1,000 square feet on the second floor. You know it's not 1,000 square feet on the second floor.
Well,
So you need to look at it.
To Kelsey's point, we're talking about the principal broker at this point, not the agent who's actually in the house.
So there was a disclaimer that was signed, correct?
Yes.
So I think that's a legal document with signatures on it. I think we have to go by that rather than anybody's gut feelings one way or the other.
And isn't that the disclaimer, the TAR disclaimer? I mean, it's like 4 pages. Everybody in Middle Tennessee gets that signed. Every transaction, everybody requires that. And it basically says the
If you want to
realtor's not
verify it, you
responsible for
verify.
anything.
So is there a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to accept council's recommendation to dismiss.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bloom, seconded by Ms. Franks to dismiss. All in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed vote no.
No.
Motion carries.
Grumpy Bobby.
Grumpy Bob voting no.
Scarface.
And the back, too, and the arm.
Okay, Ms. Bridges, is that the last one that you have?
That's all for me.
Congratulations.
Is that
Thank
enough?
you.
What's the sense of the commission? Do we want to keep going? Do we want to take a break? Take a short break? No break? Lunch break?
Maybe do we have, what is the
We have Ms. Smith's.
17?
Okay, let's keep going. Is what I hear.
Well, that's from me.
That's nobody said anything otherwise, so we'll keep going. Miss Smith,
Which one are we on now?
number 10.
TREC should start bringing pizza in so we could just move along,
We're moving on.
I said delivery dudes. You have any restaurant there?
Can we take a bathroom break at some point?
Oh, no.
5 minutes?
Second that commotion.
I told him to pass you this mint, and he held it back.
Under his stuff.
Well, because I said so.
Because I said so. I'm so excited.
Yeah, he loves it.
You
Very
came
motivated.
a
Very big
little
on
late
Scouts.
to the party.
Smith, are you ready for number 10? Miss Smith, are you ready?
Anybody?
Starts with a D. Don't leave out the L. Smith, are you ready for number 10?
Yes, thank you.
We are too. Let's go.
2018-018491. Complainant is the buyer and respondent is the seller's agent and the seller's mother. Complainant filed this complaint on March 7th, 2018 after entering a contract to purchase a new construction home. This complaint also led to a complaint matter being opened and presented to the Board for Licensing Contractors. An investigation was conducted by that board, and the investigator met with the seller and his father. The seller's father owns the construction company that built the new home, and the seller works with his father but is not a licensed contractor. The only issue addressed and resolved by the Board of Licensing Contractors matter was that, based on all evidence, the seller does not negotiate contracts or engage in any unlicensed contractor activity. Complainant alleges respondent did not disclose that she was the seller's mother before the contract was signed. Complainant further alleges the contract stated complainant's home would be, quote, be the same as another home the seller was in the process of building nearby, which I'm going to refer to as the comp home, except as noted in the contract's special stipulations. Complainant's main concerns are that the home complainant bought is not exactly the same as the comp home, and that complainant felt extreme pressure from respondent and the seller to rush into closing when complainant felt the home was not ready because of the alleged differences. Complainant alleges respondent filed a false notice of completion on December 19, 2017, when closing was not until December 29th. Complainant alleges the mechanical permit was pulled untimely on January 5, 2018. Complainant describes the respondent and the seller's actions as being similar to a bait and switch, alleges they engage in deceptive trade practices, and misrepresent things. Complainant takes issue with the fact the seller didn't have a contractor license. Complainant alleges the seller breached the contract because he refused to extend closing. Complainant did not close, and the home was put back on the market, and then complainant started working with the respondent and the seller again to try to complete the purchase. Complainant does not clearly specify what the differences in the homes were, but respondent and the seller and the builders state the only difference are some lights, a few steps, and some storage space above the garage. Complainant feels respondent and the seller used every means available to them to assist each other in evading the obligations under the contract.
Erica, could I get stop? Would it be wrong if I ask Erica just go to the last paragraph? Because all this big, long thing boils down to one form.
Without objection.
Okay. Just go to our last full paragraph.
Counsel finds no evidence respondent violated any statutes or rules other than failing to properly disclose her personal interests as the seller's mother by preparing and obtaining all parties' signatures on the proper disclosure forms. Therefore, counsel recommends a $1,000 civil penalty for violation of Tennessee Code Annotated 62-13-4037A.
And the recommendation was to...
And the recommendation is a consent order assessing a $1,000 civil penalty for that violation for not disclosing the personal interest.
And I went back to read the rule just to make sure you had to have it in writing.
Yes.
And you do.
Yes, I made sure too.
I was like, couldn't she just tell it?
Because it was clear everybody knew. But that wasn't enough.
So I'm going to move that we accept counsel's recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Woods, seconded by Ms. Hills. $1,000 consent order. Discussion? All in favor vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed vote no. That motion carries unanimously. Number 11, please.
2018-018-531. Respondent is the principal broker for the affiliate broker in the complaint above. Would you like me to read the whole thing, or?
No, I'm good. I mean, we can have that discussion. I think you recommended to dismiss it. I was wondering, did you think maybe they should have any kind of responsibility?
I didn't. This complaint was opened specifically because the complainant wanted a separate complaint, not for any kind of failure to supervise allegations. Okay. And I didn't find that the respondent violated any statutes or rules as the principal broker in this transaction and was involved and tried to help.
I move to accept counsel's recommendation.
Second. Motion by Mr. Woods, seconded by Mr. Douglas to dismiss. Ms. Franks.
So I'm from a very large family. One side is 12 children, the other is 5 children. Most everybody is either a builder, a realtor, or a closing attorney. My mother-in-law is a judge. So I can tell you that in my company I have several family members, and one thing that I always drill in and make sure that they do is fill out that personal interest form. Very simple, one little check. They don't have to disclose anything because it's new construction, just one little check and sign it. And, it's the principal broker's responsibility to make sure that all that paperwork is there. So,
and it could have been on the purchase and sale agreement or anywhere, just as long as it was, you could prove it was
somehow,
disclosed.
yes, if it was disclosed.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see anything any proof that she did disclose it, and to me, that's pretty serious. I mean, my sister-in-law's closing attorney, but I always give 3 names. I'll tell them, now she's my sister-in-law, but here's you 2 more good people too. So for me not to say anything, to me, is a conflict as a principal broker too, and I think the principal broker should have been looking for that disclosure. That's our biggest job, is reading these contracts.
Do you want to make a substitute motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a substitute motion that we assess the principal broker a $500 penalty.
For failure to supervise.
For failure to supervise.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Frank, seconded by Ms. Hills. Substitute motion, $500 civil penalty for failure to supervise. Discussion on that motion.
Well,
Mr. Bloom.
Yeah. Didn't we just do that for $1,000 for somebody?
That was somebody that didn't respond.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, I'm fine.
I didn't say 1,000, and I said 500 instead of 1,000, simply because I felt like our attorneys had a little bit of,
I just wanted to be
and she's
consistent.
got more knowledge about it than we do.
Can I make one? I just want to make sure that the commission is aware of this, that the closing never occurred, the property was never purchased, and the principal broker did go to the affiliate broker and ask, why didn't you not do this? Where is it? You need to do it. So at what point is the principal broker supposed to be reviewing all the paperwork if there was not, I guess, a transaction?
And a sales contract.
So but once an offer is accepted, then the principal broker should review everything and make sure it's there.
Should be in the offer.
Okay, I just wanted it to be clear.
The substitute motion that we're going to vote on first is for the $500 civil penalty. If you want a bigger penalty, or if you think it ought to be dismissed, then you can vote no. But if you want the $500 civil penalty, then you'll vote yes. All in favor, vote yes.
Yes.
All opposed, vote no. No. That motion carries 6-1 with Mr. Douglas voting no. Number 12.
2018-020-051. Complainant is the buyer and respondent is their agent. Complainant alleges respondent did not have complainant's best interest in mind when completing this transaction. Complainant specifically alleges they told respondent they would not pay for the seller's clothes.
Yes, Mr. Grease.
If you wouldn't mind reading your recommendation, this is pretty straightforward.
The recommendation is assessing a civil penalty of $1,000 for failure to respond.
Did fail to respond, is that correct?
I made sure, yes.
Okay. Move to accept council's recommendation.
Second.
And not only that, look
Motion
at
by
their
Ms.
history.
Motion by Mr. Grease, seconded by Ms. Hills. $1,000 civil penalty for failure to respond. Any discussion?
This is my question.
Mr. Wood?
Okay, let's assume they did respond and they didn't have good answers. Could there have been other things we could have said? For instance, because apparently the complainant was under the understanding that the transaction was going to be handled a little bit differently than what it turned out to be as far as what they were paying. So if they'd responded, could they not have maybe also been in trouble for not exercising reasonable skill and care?
Absolutely.
Okay, so why are we being easier on them because they didn't respond? Because if you handle a case in court and they don't respond, you can pile on all you want to.
True.
I completely agree with you. I don't see any other option for us if we can't get a response for them. Because now if I had information and proof at this point of other violations, I would absolutely recommend assessing civil penalties for them, even if we didn't have a response. But because I don't have anything showing or proving it, that
they shouldn't benefit by not responding.
Right.
And that we're allowing them to benefit.
I agree.
I've been saying this for about 2 years, and this is now one I would like to draw the line
I
and see
agree.
what we can do on. Because this was very obvious that, I mean, it may have been that they were so egregious in what they did, they're like, hey, I can't help myself. I just need to hush.
They may know that
They have
you
history
just get
from
$1,000.
2016, so they know how it works.
Yeah.
Is there any conclusion that you could draw with respect to any other violations just based on the information you have from the complainant?
No, because it was very much he said, she said, nothing.
Only difference, she didn't
on,
say.
Right. He said she did not say.
That's right.
Nothing on the in the written documents that I have could even come close to proving what the complainant's alleging.
You don't have to prove it because the other person didn't respond, so you have to make the assumption that what they said was true.
You're absolutely right, and we could sort that out in a hearing if they don't accept the consent order.
What about the allegation that the complainant said they didn't want to pay the seller's closing costs and that the respondent agreed that the complainant would pay the seller's closing costs and they had to pay the seller's closing cost?
I don't, before we just talked about the fact that we can go with what the complainant says, I didn't have any kind of proof that the complainant had said that they didn't want to pay the seller's closing cost. And they signed the contract as it was written.
Duties owed to a client, or?
There's duty owed to a client to follow their instructions.
Yes.
And then, would reasonable skill and care be something different in addition to it?
I would, yeah, we could do
4031.
Failing to follow the instructions by writing the contract up correctly, and then skill and care by not fixing it and allowing it to move forward.
Okay. Let's see if we can tie this up. Okay.
Oh, I got an idea
okay,
too.
keep going.
Is if you look at the history and all the complaints that this principal broker has had, this might be one of those good cases for the principal broker core class, in addition to a fine or a penalty.
Okay.
But you, whatever you want.
Okay. Let's try. How about $1,000 for failure to respond, civil penalty? $1,000 for not using reasonable skill and care. And $1,000, Diane, what was it for?
Duties owed to all clients.
Obeying all the lawful instructions of the
Obeying lawful instructions of the client. And they need to take the core course, the broker's core course, within 180 days, and they do not get any credit for that.
The principal broker core course.
Just want to mention we might extend the number of days. I was trying to look up if there's a schedule posted
right.
for that class, but
How about 12 months?
Lately, we've been doing a year.
Yeah, 12 months to get the core class done.
Hey, you've heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Hills. Discussion. All in favor vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed vote no. That motion carries unanimously. Number 13.
2018-020441. The council notes the respondent's principal broker license was revoked in 2011. Complainant remains anonymous and alleges respondent is managing overnight rentals in a Tennessee county without a business license and with a revoked real estate license. Complainant notes 6 aliases respondent allegedly uses and provides 9 hyperlinks to properties respondent is allegedly handling, but complainant provides no further detail or documentation to support the allegations. Respondent did not respond to this complaint. Council notes that no civil penalty can be assessed for failing to respond because respondent is no longer a licensee. Council notes Rob and Ryan had a formal hearing just this past July, about less than a month ago, but respondent did not show up to the hearing. A default judgment was entered against respondent, and council notes the license was already revoked in 2011. Council recommends closing and flagging this complaint in case respondent tries to reapply for a license in the future.
Move to accept council's recommendation to close and flag.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Franks, seconded by Mr. Wood. Mr. Grease, comment.
One more thing we could do. We don't do it very often, and it might not mean a hill of beans, but we can refer this to the local district attorney. And I think we should. If this person is working under different aliases, license has been revoked, I think it's worth our time to refer this to whatever county's district attorney. So I'd like to put that as part of the motion.
All right.
I second that if you're amending it. I also have a question. So did you look at the hyperlinks? I mean, or
No, I did not. I didn't go and do any more research on it.
Okay, but
they
there was
didn't provide
enough
screenshots
evidence.
or anything. They just typed them out, and I didn't.
Okay.
Can I assume there were court costs in this hearing that were assessed to this person?
Plus whatever, maybe civil penalties.
Those aren't paid, then we have a collection.
Yes, it goes to
mechanism.
collections.
Okay.
When do you use the card of use an investigator?
You can use an investigator.
An investigator was used on the previous complaint that went to formal hearing where they didn't show up. So we did use one at that time.
Motion is to close, flag, and refer to the district attorney. Any additional discussion? Let's vote. All in favor?
Can I just say one thing?
Yes, Ms. Franks.
Not knowing what county this is in, my brother-in-law's the DA in Davidson County, so if it's Davidson County, I would need to recuse. I would need somebody else to make that motion instead of me. I don't feel right making
But you
that.
don't know.
It's 90-some counties, Marcia. It's
I know.
odds are against you.
Since you don't know, then you're not
Okay,
using
okay.
any kind of personal interest.
Okay.
All in favor of the motion, vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, vote no. The motion carries unanimously. The next item is number 14, which is a represent, and your recommendation is to close and flag and refer it to the Florida Real Estate Commission, correct?
After receiving all of the information from FREC.
So why don't you read the number for us, please?
2017-043461.
Any additional discussion before we consider the recommendation or questions anybody has?
Move to accept council's recommendation to close and flag and refer to complaint to Florida Real Estate Commission.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Franks, seconded by Mr. Wood, to accept council's recommendation. Any additional discussion? All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, vote no. That motion carries unanimously. Number 15.
2017-056741.
To the new information.
Council has no new information to present regarding this complaint and refers the commission to the complaint below against the respondent's previous employer, as the commission deferred this so it could be presented at the same time as number 16. Do you want me to read everything, or maybe read 16 first, or just read my
Want
recommendation?
to go to 16 and come back to 15?
Yeah, I think that would.
Okay, why don't you do 16?
Okay. 2018-011111. So this has not been, this is not a represent. We just put it in there because it made sense. This complaint was opened as a result of the complaint above. Respondent's attorney responded on their behalf. Respondent states they were first notified around August 28, 2017, that the respondent above, which was a prior employee, was being investigated by TREC due to a complaint. Respondent states the posts were made within the employee's first month of employment. Respondent states they were unaware of the posts to the employee's personal social media account prior to them being turned over. Respondent denies authorizing the post and was instructed to delete them immediately and advised not to make any such claims on behalf of respondent again on any medium. Respondent's understanding is that the employee adhered to the instructions for the remainder of their employment. Respondent did a thorough review to make sure all posts or any reference to respondent have been removed and deleted. Respondent states they are aware of the definitions outlined in Tennessee Code Annotated 62-13-302, as well as the brokerage requirements thereof. In light of this matter, respondent has taken additional steps to ensure that future employees, if they're, and they specifically said this, if there ever will be any, are held to a social media policy and properly adhere to the limitations of their job. Respondent states they consider this matter closed as the employee no longer works for them. Council reviewed respondent's website. When council clicked on Apply Now, another screen appeared with the respondent's name and, quote, property management beside it. However, that reference is not included in their business name as provided to our office. There is an application with a processing and an application fee, and a note to the applicant from respondent stating, quote, we're looking forward to helping you find your new home, end quote. There's a tab for a tenant to pay rent online, and there seems to be a tenant portal as well as contact information for respondent, but there's no other information on the website. Respondent refers to themselves as a property management company and seems to be engaging in unlicensed activity. Therefore, council recommends assessing a civil penalty of $1,000 for unlicensed activity.
Move to accept council's recommendation.
For a second.
I add
That motion
cease and
fails for
desist.
lack of
I'll
a
second.
Oh, it just got in under the wire. Okay. Ms. Franks made the motion to accept the recommendation for a $1,000 civil penalty. Mr. Grease seconded it. Mr. Bloom.
Well, could I add, and to
Yes.
cease and desist if they're
You
doing
okay with
unlicensed
that?
activity?
Yeah, and a cease and desist letter has been included.
I got a little confused, actually. Up at the beginning, it says respondent denies authorizing a post and was instructed to delete them immediately and advised not to make any such claims on behalf of respondent again. It sounds like there's respondent talking to the
I
respondent.
think it's like employee is supposed to be in there.
Oh, it is on my copy. I'm sorry. So the respondent, let's see.
The employee was instructed to delete them
Right.
immediately and advised not to make any such claims on behalf of the respondent again, I think is what it's supposed to say.
That is correct. So respondent denies ever knowing about the post until this complaint was filed, and then said they told the prior employee, you can't do that, you need to delete them all, went back and made sure they were deleted, and then says they adhered to those instructions for the remainder of the employee's employment.
Right, any additional discussion? All in favor of the motion vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed vote no. That motion carries unanimously. Let's go back to number 15 now. This is the employee, right?
Yes, this is the employee.
And there was a $3,000 civil penalty,
Correct.
but you're recommending that it be reduced to $1,000.
Or less.
Why?
I met with the respondent and talked with the respondent for quite some time at this office and have had a lot of emails and communications with the respondent. And I truly believe that the employer did know about the post, did tell him that it was okay, and is probably doing some shady things other than what we know about based on the conversations we had. The respondent had just moved here from another country, is now licensed as an agent, working for a respectable firm, and truly did everything I think that the respondent could have done without having taken any classes or being licensed or knowing what is unlicensed activity when it comes to social media posts, and relied on that employer's advice. And I know the employer is saying they didn't do that. I just don't believe that. And I think $3,000 is just very, very severe for this.
This is the one that was eager, a good employee. I don't remember, property management or
Youthful
something.
enthusiasm.
Yes, yes. So, and this is that person who has now since gotten their license.
Yes. Yes.
February 2018, and okay.
Did they move their license?
Well, they weren't licensed when they worked for that
And I remember this.
unlicensed firm. So
But they're not with that same firm.
no. They left as soon as this complaint was filed and brought me a ton of proof. And
Just maybe thought he or she was helping and.
Yeah, truly,
and,
I truly
I
believe
remember
that.
This.
Make a substitute.
I don't think we have a motion at all right now. So
Okay,
so
well, I'd like to
we're
make a
open
motion
for
that we
motions.
just
We're-
give a letter of warning.
Reduce it from a $3,000 civil penalty to a letter of warning?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Grease. Any additional discussion? All right, letter of warning. All in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed vote no. Motion carries unanimously. Number 17.
2017-076-311. Okay, skip down to the new information. Council spoke with respondent immediately after they received the consent order and discussed the professional privilege tax suspension and unlicensed activity alleged violation. Because respondent was positive they had paid their PPT and their license was never inactive. Council spoke with the executive director for TREC and the licensing division staff, and it was discovered that respondent's license was active during the time the advertising violation took place, and further, respondent had paid their PPT for 2017 to the Department of Revenue. Council received a letter stating respondent had paid their PPT for 2017 directly from the Department of Revenue, and somewhere there was an administrative error on the Department of Revenue's side, which caused respondent's name to show up on a list that we receive from the Department of Revenue, leading to their license being suspended erroneously. Council also confirmed with the licensing division that respondent was indeed active in November 2017 when the advertisement was in use, and was notified respondent's license has technically been active since his renewal in April 2017, and the license record has been updated to reflect this. Council notified respondent of the correction, and respondent has stated they are willing to sign a consent order and pay the civil penalty for the advertising violation. Therefore, Council's recommendation is revising the consent order, removing the civil penalty for unlicensed activity, and assessing the $500 civil penalty for the advertising violation.
Move to accept council's recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Franks, seconded by Mr. Douglas to accept the recommendation. Discussion?
So this was created
Wood.
by the Department of Revenue?
The list that we get with names of people who haven't paid was created by the Department of Revenue.
So we should take all the expenses of everybody working on this and charge it to the Department of Revenue and get it off of ours.
For the privilege of.
You want to add that to the motion?
Yeah, I better not.
All in favor of the motion vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed vote no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Smith. The legal report has ended.
Anything
Mr. Grease.
anything else to come before us from legal? We appreciate the team participation today. And we appreciate Amanda, who's promised to speak louder in the future so we can hear what she's saying to Erica. All right, Commissioners, anything else on your mind before we adjourn? Mr. Bloom, you got your grandkids back to Brazil, okay?
They're on their way.
Good.
Yeah.
How long does that take?
We'll get there tomorrow. They'll get there the next day.
Wow. That's too long.
Ms. Hills, anything on your mind?
My first grandchild started school today.
What are you doing here?
True. I know.
All right, Mr. Douglas.
Oh, sir.
Are you still watching videos when you drive home?
Anyway, you want to say a prayer for safety on the way home?
I don't do that.
Mr. Douglas, I would advise you not to answer.
You are on the record.
Oh, yeah, he puts.
Yeah, I watch these meetings.
As I understand it, he puts his tablet up there on his dashboard, and it's right in his field of vision, so he can do two things at once. I'm not sure if that's true or not. All right, Mr. Wood.
Mr. Douglas he just hopes his insurance carrier doesn't watch this. I'll just make everybody aware of this. A few months ago, we awarded the Bill Toon Award to Karen Lowe, and so I've invited her to come to the next meeting, and so our association will bring in some people, and I'm going to ask the state association to bring people, and so I've kind of carved out around 10 o'clock that we'll try to introduce Karen and just give her that, and then so that'd be kind of a neat thing. That'd be a way to get some people down here again, so that'd be good. So
Do we have a plaque for her?
I think Caitlin has had it waiting for me, so she's good.
Thank you, Bobby. Marcia?
I just want us to remember Fontaine's son who's been sick, and let's pray for that family.
I want you all to look at Marcia's eyes and see if she doesn't look like Marcia Blackburn. I keep thinking that's the case. But all right, Marcia. Thanks.
I guess it's better than some people he could have said. That.
Be worse. Mr. McMullen?
No comment. Safe
You-
travels.
You've got football season starting pretty soon.
Oh, hot,
Yes.
hot.
All right, and to staff and commissioners, thanks for your ability to work through lunch with us. I don't mean for this to always be how this works. It has for a while, but for people who are trying to get back on the road, it's helpful. So, with that said, thanks for everything you do for us. We look forward to seeing you next month. We're adjourned.